This story began with a young man coming to his senses in an unknown place. His head was splitting terribly. People around him were screaming, calling for help, begging them to let them go. While he was wondering where he had gotten to and who all these people were, and analyzing the strange light from the symbols on the floor, a bright light began to shine and a goddess appeared, and horrible monsters began to beat against the walls. People panicked, shouted, asked for help. At the same time, someone in the crowd suggested that it was all just a show, and there must be a hidden camera somewhere. More and more people did not believe that it was all real. The boy listened to these versions and did not understand anything. He remembered that not long ago he was at home, having lunch with his sister, until suddenly a notification came on his phone. He picked up the phone. There was an invitation to a new game. The boy accepted the invitation, and that was the last thing he clearly remembered before ending up in this place. A certain man began to beat the magic door with his fist and aggressively demand that they be finally let out. Word spread through the crowd that none of those present remembered how they ended up here. Someone asked the boy if he remembered anything by tapping him on the shoulder. From this touch, he realized that all this was real, not a hallucination and not a dream. And the control over the body is clear, real. The goddess opened her eyes and greeted everyone present. First of all, she is grateful to everyone who responded to the invitation, which confuses people even more. They were all chosen as warriors to protect the continent. The goddess said that, despite everything, not everyone present in the room would get the right to go to the continent. Such an honor will be bestowed only on a certain number of those who survive. At that moment, they were in the so-called waiting room. It had everything necessary: water, food, and weapons. And also in this room, you can get specialization for further battles. The goddess revealed that there are 4 levels: common, rare, heroic, and legendary, and that everyone must use a weapon for protection. At that moment, the magic wall began to crack. The goddess said that everyone here has a different origin and upbringing, but she wants to reveal the individuality of everyone, and for this people should say, window of state. Everyone shouted this phrase in fear. Translucent tablets with their names, age, nature, profession, rank, and skills appeared before people's eyes. The boy, Li Qiyan, realized that he had entered the game as if he were on a computer. Li Qiyan saw that he had a new ability. These are the eyes of the soul, the ability to look into other people's windows of state, as well as the hidden levels of other people's abilities. Apart from him, everyone sees only their windows. Li Qiyan saw the inscription overall score and immediately reached out to check his own. The status window says he won't achieve anything. His stats are disappointing, and he might not even try to survive. It's useless. This angers Li Qiyan. He thinks that he won't just die like that. At this time, the goddess wished everyone present good luck. The magic wall finally collapsed, and the terrible monsters began to aggressively attack. Most of the people panicked, but a man yelled at everyone to pick up their weapons quickly. Everyone has already seen their status windows and should understand that the whole situation is not like a reality show. Everything is real. Li Qiyan looked at the windows of others' fortunes and found a person with a heroic level of resilience. He cold-bloodedly decided to use her as a human shield, to protect himself at the expense of another. Li Qiyan grabbed his spear and jumped towards the man. Told him to be in front, and he would cover from behind. The man is surprised that the boy wants to fight, and Li Qiyan says that he should at least try. A large monster jumped at them. Li Qiyan spears him as the man freezes in confusion. Li Qiyan yells that he should pack up and run, and the man obeys his order. Li Qiyan is satisfied. He does not consider this man to be a person and is glad in his mind that he tamed one pig to begin with, and then it will be possible to work with it. The monsters continued to attack them. Li Qiyan repelled their attacks until suddenly the man took a shield from an unknown source and really covered it, getting involved in the battle. Li Qiyan suggests going down to fetch water, and on the way they see a magical passage. Both are happy to finally find a way out of this monster hell. They were already joyfully running to the passage until suddenly they heard someone calling for help. The boy is surrounded by monsters from all sides and is being eaten alive. Li Qiyan freezes and thinks what to do. Li Qiyan resolutely walked towards the boy with the spear in his hands. He was already happy to be saved, but Li Qiyan only took his bags of supplies and ran away to the magic gate. The boy kept begging for help, But Li Qiyan only thinks that he should be grateful to him, because thanks to his provisions and the fact that the monsters were diverted to weak prey, he can live. The boys climbed into a niche and caught their breath there. Neither of them knew what to do next, but Li Qiyan has an idea. If they are in the game, they should raise their level to become stronger. Li Qiyan says it will be hard, but they have to get stronger to start with. Fortunately, they have weapons, shields, water, and food, so their situation is at least slightly better than others. As Li Qiyan said this, a giant monster appeared right next to them, staring right at them with an eye bigger than both boys. But for some reason, the monster did not attack easy prey. Li Qiyan opened the monster's state window and saw that the monster's eyesight was very poor. He simply could not see them. Motioning his companion to sit still, he stood up and picked up his spear to attack. The companion can't believe that Li Qiyan is really doing this, and he has already pierced the monster's eye with a spear, shouting for him to finally die. The monster died in agony. Li Qiyan could not believe that he really killed the monster, but at the same time he sees that his power level increased from this action, because killings give experience. The companion looked at Li Qiyan with admiring eyes. He had just become a hero to him. Li Qiyan told him to remember that if he could do it, the companion could fight the monsters too. The companion finally said his name, Park Dok-ku. He asked for Li Qiyan's name and asked permission to address him informally. Li Qiyan allowed, planning to use Park Deok-ku in the future. Li Qiyan fashioned something out of leather and made Park Deok-ku a scarf that boosts his stamina. Park Dok-ku is genuinely grateful, and Li Qiyan thinks that his shield must be strong. Park Dok-ku says that from now on, Li Qiyan can count on him for everything. Li Qiyan accepts his thanks and says that now they have to get out of this place. They set out on the road and almost immediately heard screams and crying. A girl runs screaming for help and is chased by 3 giant ogres. Li Qiyan looks at the girl's stats and sees that her name is Jung Ha-young, and she has very high stats, especially legendary mana. He understood that this girl must be saved in order to be used. Li Qiyan instantly orders Park Dok-ku to fight and save her. Park Deok-ku isn't sure if they can handle the 3, but Li Qiyan suggests a winning attack strategy. The boys called Jung Ha-young over, and she ran, happy at the hope of being saved. She ran around the corner, and the ogres immediately followed her. The first of them tried to strike, but Park Dok-ku was able to withstand the blow with his shield. While Park Dok-ku was holding the blow, Li Qiyan jumped from above and speared the ogre. However, 2 more run towards them, and Li Qiyan does not have time to dodge another blow. Suddenly, a figure appeared, and the heads of both ogres fell to the ground in a matter of seconds. Li Qiyan is stunned. He doesn't understand where the rescue came from. The guy who saved them is holding a sword and looking very calm. Surprised, Li Qiyan immediately checked his status window. All of Kim Hyun-sung's stats are simply incredibly high. Li Qiyan can't believe what he's seeing. Kim Hyun-sung's skill and level were too high for someone new to this world, and Li Qiyan decided that this was not his first time here. Kim Hyun-sung also noted that Li Qiyan looks used to battles. Park Deok-ku praises Li Qiyan and happily says that they worked well together to defeat the ogres. At this time, Li Qiyan sneaked a peek at Kim Hyun-sung's 3rd ability and saw that he was a legendary level swordsman. Li Qiyan is very envious of the others' such skills. Kim Hyun-sung stares at Li Qiyan and becomes uneasy. Li Qiyan tries to be as friendly as possible to avoid conflict. Kim Hyun-sung says that he is currently gathering the survivors and has also prepared a base for them in a safe camp. Li Qiyan asked how many people were at this base. Kim Hyun-sung replied that there were about 30 who could fight. Also, he would love to have Park Dok-ku and Li Qiyan join them in this camp of survivors. Li Qiyan immediately thought that Kim Hyun-sung was dangerous. He is a nice, benevolent peacemaker on the face of it, but doesn't he know that such a camp of survivors will become an obstacle on the way? However, Li Qiyan realized that thanks to one of Kim Hyun-sung's abilities, he knows how to pass this location, and maybe even its secrets. And therefore, it is necessary to maintain a good relationship with him. Li Qiyan agreed to the offer and asked Kim Hyun-sung if he had already received his specialization. He pretended to be surprised to hear about the Swordmaster, because in reality, he already knew everything. Suddenly, Li Qiyan remembered the girl he saved. She sits in the corner, crying, and Li Qiyan reaches out a caring hand to her, offering to help her get up off the floor. Jung Ha-yang accepted his hand and awkwardly thanked him. While she was getting up, Kim Hyun-sung saw her and for some reason reacts very strangely to the girl. Jung Ha-young said her name, but the way Kim Hyun-sung happily introduced herself to her made her feel uncomfortable and hid behind Lee Ki-young, assuring her that everything was fine. Kim Hyun-sung asked her for permission to make an informal appeal and said that if Jung Ha-young felt uncomfortable, she should tell him right away. Jung Ha-young only pressed closer to Lee Ki-young. Jung Ha-young suddenly comes to and somewhat awkwardly thanks Lee Ki-yeon for saving him from the ogres. Lee Ki-yeon smiles sweetly in response and says that there is nothing to be thankful for. To himself, Lee Ki-yeon thinks that both Jung Ha-young and Kim Hyun-sung are just treasures that fell upon him out of the blue, and he must use them until the very end of this adventure. Park Daeok-koo was delighted when he saw the camp of survivors. There are really many people, most of them are injured. Park Dok-koo asked Kim Hyun-sung how they found such a safe place. Kim Hyun-sung said that he stumbled upon it by accident, but Lee Ki-yeon didn't believe him and thought that Kim Hyun-sung already knew about this hiding place, but just doesn't show it to others. A girl ran out from the main mass of people. She joyfully called out to Kim Hyun-sung and said that she was glad for his return and that he brought new ones. She was worried because he was late. While Kim Hyun-sung said that these people would now live with them in the camp, Lee Ki-yeon quickly opened the window of the girl's condition. Her name is Lee Ji-hai, and her status and skills are just terrible. No use at all. The system told Lee Ki-yeon that he had finally met his soulmate, but Lee Ki-yeon wanted to sneeze at a girl with such a low level. Lee Ji-hae asked everyone their names and said her name. Lee Ji-hai looked at Jung Ha-young and Lee Ki-yeon with disdain. She didn't see them as useful people. Lee Ki-yeon understood that this weak girl was now evaluating them in her mind. Lee Ji-hai only approved of Park Daeok-koo. She started flirting with him and asking how many monsters he had already killed. Park Daeok-koo enthusiastically said that everything is only thanks to Lee Ki-yeon. At these words, Lee Ji-hai looked at Lee Ki-yeon with slightly different eyes, appraising the spear in his hands. She made a cute face and said she was glad to meet everyone. Lee Ji-hai offered to help set up the camp, not forgetting to ask Kim Hyun-sung's permission, asked Lee Ki-yeon to take care of her, and he realized that she was just like him. Ordinary people in the camp greeted the new arrivals with joyful shouts. They are really happy that the warriors have appeared in the camp. Lee Ki-yeon realized that this place was indeed a refuge for the weak. The next day, Kim Hyun-sung woke up Park Dok-koo and Lee Ki-young and asked if they rested well. Park Dok-koo assured that it was just fine, but Lee Ka-young did not share his joy. Lee Ki-yeon told Kim Hyun-sung that based on what he saw yesterday, there weren't really many combat-ready in the camp. Lee Ki-yeon apologized and asked how it was possible to keep this place safe. Kim Hyun-sung replied that the situation is actually not good. Water and food are scarce, as are fighters, so resources must be conserved. Lee Ki-young said that things could get worse. They brought few supplies with them, and the unfit to fight would become more and more of a burden. Kim Hyun-sung vehemently denied this. Lee Ki-young insisted on his point, saying that he does not do charity work. Park Dok-koo asked if he was going to leave. Lee Ki-young said no, but there is no point in waiting for a miracle here. After a dramatic pause, Lee Ki-young smiled broadly again and said that if you fight together, you can overcome any obstacle. Kim Hyun-sung is very happy to hear this. Lee Ki-yeon said that he understands that Kim Hyun-sung wants to save himself with these people and accepts his decision. But Lee Ki-yeon is different. He is not one of those who sacrifices himself for others and does not want to move in a group. Lee Ki-yeon said he would understand if he was seen as selfish, but Kim Hyun-sung assured him that he understood and asked what Lee Ki-yeon wanted. Satisfied, Lee Ki-yeon thought that his suspicions were not confirmed and that he was not offered to sacrifice himself for a higher purpose. That Kim Hyun-sung understood him better than expected. Lee Ki-yeon wants to be initiated into all plans that Kim Hyun-sung has in the future. This surprised Kim Hyun-sung quite a bit. He expected to hear something different. While Kim Hyun-sung is surprised, Lee Ki-yeon explained. At the very beginning, they were given two ways, scavenging and survival. Lee Ki-yeon frankly thought that the option of survival was impossible. Lee Ki-yeon didn't know how possible it was to appropriate most of the resources to a small number of people. However, if Kim Hyun-sung's goal was survival, then this crowd was even more of a burden. Lee Ki-yeon insisted that even if these people were not eaten by the monsters, they would still starve to death. Kim Hyun-sung agreed with his arguments and hopefully asked to help him. Lee Ki-yeon thought that Kim Hyun-sung had guessed that he was not strong, but with his speech, Lee Ki-yeon had become someone like an advisor in his eyes. Lee Ki-yeon and Kim Hyun-sung shook hands in agreement. Park Deok-koo, Lee Ki-yeon, and Kim Hyun-sung, the three of them went to the location with the monsters. They are a good team. They cover and help each other in battle. However, mainly only Park Deok-koo and Kim Hyun-sung fought. Lee Ka-young only pretended that he was of great use, and he himself praised himself for being able to tame these two. Kim Hyun-sung saw two more monsters ahead. He wants to detain them while the others deal with the supplies. Lee Ki-yeon noticed that there were fewer monsters in the starting point area than expected. Lee Ki-yeon assumed that the area had already been cleared before, and Park Deok-koo thought that if it was Kim Hyun-sung, he must have practiced swordsmanship before, when he was still in their world. Lee Ki-yeon suggested that it might be the influence of Kim Hyun-sung's specialization, and Park Deok-koo began to feel sad. Lee Ki-yeon asked not to worry because they will definitely open Park Deok-koo's specialization. Park Deok-koo, even without specialization, helps a lot, even though he thinks he didn't really do anything. It's all Kim Hyun-sung. Lee Ki-yeon replied that he would not have gotten here without him. At this moment, several specializations opened up for Lee Ki-yeon to choose from at once: ordinary warrior, archer, mage, as well as a rare commander. Lee Ki-yeon was happy because it happened sooner than he expected. Kim Hyun-sung came over and asked what was being offered to Lee Ki-yeon. When Park Deok-koo heard the answer, he started to glow, because the commander would be perfect for Lee Ki-yeon. He is the perfect type for a commander. Kim Hyun-sung noted that this specialization gives not enough bonuses at the start compared to others. Kim Hyun-sung felt that archer would be a more suitable and useful specialization for Lee Ki-yeon. Kim Hyun-sung and Park Deok-koo began to argue, giving arguments and counter-arguments in favor of their choice. Lee Ki-yeon was trying to think with his head at this time. These two only confused him. Lee Ki-yeon made his own choice and decisively clicked on the icon of his chosen specialization. A glow enveloped him, and in a moment it was extinguished. Lee Ki-yeon is even a little disappointed that it all ended so quickly. When Park Deok-koo and Kim Hyun-sung realized that the choice had already been made, they ran to Lee Ki-yeon, pushing each other with their elbows, to the front, and asked if he had chosen the archer or the commander. Lee Ki-yeon only smiled in response to this commotion and calmly said that he had chosen to major as a mage. Park Deok-koo thought this decision was absurd and was very upset, and Kim Hyun-sung asked why. Lee Ki-yeon laughed. He said he had a premonition and thought to himself that Kim Hyun-sung regrets not getting an archer. The real reason is that Lee Ki-yeon does not like exercise. Besides, maintaining high intelligence is a good idea. And a whole 3 points of mana is actually a treasure, because before that Lee Ki-yeon had 0. He felt how new knowledge flowed into his head in a clear stream. Lee Ki-yeon's overall rating has also changed. Now he is not completely disappointed, but agree. He is still not predicted to achieve great heights, but he is satisfied with what he has already received. Lee Ki-yeon asked the still upset Park Deok-koo what major he had chosen. Park Deok-koo had a choice of shield warriors and priests, and he didn't know what to choose. Lee Ki-yeon and Kim Hyun-sung said in unison that Park Deok-koo should choose a warrior with a shield. Park Deok-koo tried to say something in defense of the priest, but the two were adamant, and he agreed. While Lee Ki-yeon was happy that Park Deok-koo was now officially a meat shield, Kim Hyun-sung congratulated them both on their new specialization and suggested that they return to the camp with the gathered supplies. Kim Hyun-sung asked how they would divide the supplies, to which Lee Ki-yeon replied that 2 sacks would be enough for him and Park Deok-koo, and Kim Hyun-sung could take the rest and feed the people. Kim Hyun-sung was touched by this act of kindness, thanked them for caring about people, and bowed low to Lee Ki-yeon and Park Deok-koo, full of sincere gratitude. Meanwhile, in the camp, a woman asked Lee Ji-hae where Mr. Kim Hyun-sung was, because she was starving to death. Lee Ji-hae replied that he would come soon, but for now, the woman should be patient. While Lee Ji-hae offered the woman a snack with the remains of the bread she was holding in her hands, another man saw them. His hands were shaking from hunger. He was reaching for a loaf of bread. Lee Ji-hae said that you won't do anything. She gave half of the loaf to the woman and simply crumbled the other on the floor for the non-working parasite. A hungry man in rags greedily threw himself at the crumbs. While Lee Jae-hai was taunting her husband, Lee Ki-yeon, Kim Hyun-sung, and Park Deok-koo returned to the camp with bags of supplies. Everyone joyfully greeted the soldiers who returned with the booty. A man demanded that Lee Ki-yong give him his bag of supplies as well, but Lee Ki-yong simply ignored him and turned away, walking away with his bag. Park Deok-koo caught up with Lee Ki-yeon and asked if he was really planning to share. Lee Ki-yeon replied that he was not going to do charity work. Park Deok-koo remarked that it didn't look right. Lee Ki-yong sternly replied that if these people want to eat, then let them raise their swords and go out to get food. In his opinion, Kim Hyun-sung could bring the two of them to the camp just to get these people active. Lee Ki-yeon looked at Lee Jae-hai, handing out food to everyone, and thought that she was doing all the management in Kim Hyun-sung's absence. A gray cardinal? She is weak against the strong, but strong against the weak. Almost without strength, people dragged stones to make protection against monsters. Jung Ha-young helped with this as well, but she was constantly told that she wasn't working fast enough and would run out of food. Lee Ki-yeon saw this and understood why she was being bullied so much. He gave Park Deok-koo his bag and told him to take it to the girl. Park Deok-koo didn't understand at first, and then decided that Lee Ki-yeon had fallen in love. Lee Ki-yeon looked at Jung Ha-young and thought that she was poor and miserable. No one but them would help her. But Jung Ha-young should then in return be as grateful as possible for the care and help in every possible way. However, as Park Deok-koo was carrying Jung Ha-young's bag, Lee Ki-yeon suddenly saw a guy come up to her and share his own bread. Lee Ki-yeon didn't understand what kind of unfamiliar scum it was. Lee Ki-yeon is offended, but decides not to worry too much. After all, why do you need this good attitude at all, when the food itself is not enough? And he gave Park Deok-koo the order to go on. Meanwhile, the guy tells Jung Ha-young that he treats her well, so he offers her his bread. Jung Ha-young is not sure if this is normal and immediately disagrees, but the boy insists that it is not easy for her. Jung Ha-young still accepted the bread, but thought that she was actually grateful to Lee Ki-yeon, because if it wasn't for him, she wouldn't have survived. Jung Ha-young thought dreamily of Lee Ki-yeon and blushed. The pushy boy decided that this blushing was his fault, and asked Jung Ha-young if she wouldn't mind getting a little closer to him. Jung Ha-young thought that the boy was offering to be friends and happily agreed. The boy took this as a call to action and placed his hands on Jung Ha-young. It dawned on the girl that something was wrong, and she tried to move away, trembling and looking in horror. The boy got angry and asked how Jung Ha-young could be so stupid. If she wants to get something, she has to give something for it. And if Jung Ha-young wants to have a good life in this camp, then she has to lie under him. Park Deok-koo appeared next to them and told the boy to stop acting like that if he didn't want to get broken arms. Rudely, he decided that it was chatter and reached out to Jung Ha-young again. Park Deok-koo hit him hard on the arm, causing the boy to start rehearsing. Park Deok-koo didn't expect to meet such garbage and remarked that the arm is not actually broken. There is no need to pretend here. The boy continued to be aggressive, so Park Deok-koo simply grabbed his clothes and tossed him away as the crowd stared in astonishment. At this time, Lee Ki-yeon watched the situation with interest. The boy shouted to the whole camp that he had blood. Park Deok-koo was annoyed by this and offered to hit him so that he was completely silent, but was stopped by Jung Ha-young saying that enough is enough. Lee Jae-hai ran to the boy and demanded that he stop. She told Park Deok-koo that violence is not allowed in the camp and asked why he did it. Park Deok-koo said that the boy was letting go, so he hit him. Lee Jae-hai asked the boy if it was true, but he denied everything. Like, yes, he was holding Jung Ha-young's hand, partly by mistake, and there might have been a misunderstanding, but nothing criminal. Park Deok-koo lost his temper and threatened to shut the boy up for good. Lee Jae-hai once again asked to clearly describe what had just happened, but the boy looked for an excuse and looked away. Lee Jae-hai asked Jung Ha-young not to hide and tell the whole situation. Jung Ha-young was petrified, because everyone around her began to whisper that she is like a heroine of a romance novel. But in reality, no one is. Jung Ha-young didn't understand why everyone was looking at her and whispering like that, because she didn't do anything wrong. What is on earth? What is here? Everything is the same. No one has ever been on her side. Jung Ha-young was trembling but started to tell that it was true. That the boy forcibly pulled her by the hand and said that she must be his if she wants to live well here, and she was scared. Lee Jae-hai didn't understand the girl's words and came to the conclusion that she said yes after all, and tears wouldn't help. And Park Dok-koo should have thought first before swinging his fists too. Jung Ha-young apologized for the situation, but Lee Jae-hi said that she shouldn't be apologizing to her, but to the guy who was letting go. It seems that he became a victim of accusations. Jung Ha-young began to tremble even more. She could not force the words of apology out of her, because the boy had hurt her. At this moment, Lee Ki-yeon realized that the best time to speak had come. Lee Ki-yeon stood up from his seat and walked over to the people with a stern expression on his face. He asked menacingly what had just happened, as if he was not aware of the whole situation, but he himself thought that he had not expected such an uproar. Lee Ki-yeon thought that what happened between them didn't really concern him. The most important thing right now was that Jung Ha-yang was cornered and would be happy to have his help. Lee Ki-yeon approached Lee Jae-hi, who was overjoyed at his timely appearance. But Lee Ki-yeon only asked her if she was in her right mind. Did Lee Jae-hi think there was some kind of playground here? Lee Ki-yeon noticed that their screams allowed the monsters to hear them and come closer. The crowd fell silent in fear, and Lee Ji-hye tried to justify herself. Lee Ki-yeon said that he was watching from afar and understood it all. Lee Ki-yeon manipulated Lee Ji-hye's words that it is still unknown who is the victim and who is the perpetrator, and asked how she could be sure that the cornered, scared girl was the culprit. Lee Ki-yeon continued to act out the scene, saying that just the sight of everyone poisoning an innocent person was horrible, and if Kim Hyun-sung also saw it, it would be even worse. The crowd began to get visibly nervous, because if Kim Hyun-sung left them, they would die. Lee Ki-yeon, meanwhile, approached Jung Ha-young and said that he was sure of her integrity. Lee Jae-hi tried to argue with him, but Lee Ki-yeon asked, "If you say, let's be closer to each other, to a new school friend, does that mean let's sleep with each other?" Lee Jae-hi had nothing to say, and the people around started supporting Lee Ki-yeon. They were saying more and more loudly that Lee Ki-yeon was right, and Jung Ha-young was not to blame for this situation. Lee Jae-hi is confused. She doesn't understand why everyone around suddenly started shouting Lee Ki-yeon's name and won't listen to her. Lee Ki-yeon looked at her with satisfaction at the moment of the transition of power in the camp. Jung Ha-young tried to say something, but Lee Ki-yeon was giving orders. Treat the injured boy, disperse and do not pile up, clean up the camp. People listened to him enthusiastically. People kept whispering, but Lee Ki-yeon told Jung Ha-young to ignore them. He thought to himself that the most important thing was that she had just received the position of the king's favorite. Lee Ki-yeon led Jung Ha-young away from the others and offered to sit down to talk. Jung Ha-young instantly started apologizing. She didn't want anything like that. Lee Ki-yeon believed her and asked her to tell everything. Jung Ha-young wiped away her tears and told Lee Ki-yeon everything that happened. He listened to her with half his ears and then said that Jung Ha-young must have had a very hard time. Jung Ha-young tried to protest, but to no avail. Jung Ha-young has gotten a lot better thanks to Lee Ki-yeon. He said he did what he could, but Jung Ha-young is grateful that Lee Ki-yeon believed in her, the one and only in her life. Jung Ha-young said that Lee Ki-yeon is very kind to her and always helps her since the first meeting. Jung Ha-young did not understand the reasons for this kindness and asked for an explanation. Lee Ki-yeon said that she reminds him of his sister. Lee Ki-yeon lied outright. Jung Ha-young doesn't look like his sister at all, but it pays off. He asked Jung Ha-young about her family, and she said she has 2 older sisters, but they don't communicate. Lee Ki-yeon continued to ask, and when Jung Ha-young said that she didn't have parents, he assured her that they were similar in that way. Jung Ha-young admitted a little sheepishly that he was right. They looked a little alike. Lee Ki-yeon said that he would like to maintain communication with Jung Ha-young as long as it doesn't make her uncomfortable, because that's just his wish. Jung Ha-young trembled with shame, but agreed. Lee Ki-yeon checked Jung Ha-young's status window and saw that she still had no specialization, but the incredible potential was still with her. Lee Ki-yeon decided to bring up the subject of magic again when they were closer. Suddenly, their conversation was interrupted by Lee Jae-hi, who wanted to speak with Lee Ki-yeon alone. Lee Ki-yeon expected that Lee Jae-hi would come to him sooner or later, so he readily agreed. Lee Ki-yeon asked Jung Ha-young to leave them for a few minutes, and she left. Along the way, Jung Ha-young and Lee Jae-hi exchanged strange glances, but said nothing to each other. When Lee Ki-yeon asked what was the matter, Lee Jae-hi apologized to him for making a fuss about the Jung Ha-young situation. Lee Ki-yeon replied that everything was fine and apologized for his own harshness. Lee Jae-hai asked that the solution to this situation be handed over to her because she is equally guilty of both Jung Ha-young and the boy. Lee Ki-yeon agreed because it's her job, but Lee Jae-hai didn't expect to hear that. Lee Ka-yeon assured him that everything was fine, but he wouldn't want to be in situations like this again. Lee Jae-hai understood his hint not to cross the line and know her place. Lee Jae-hai suddenly stood up and sat down as close as possible to Lee Ki-yeon. She said that she understood him perfectly and wouldn't cause any trouble in the future, and that she adored people like Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Jae-hai suddenly offered to get close. Lee Ki-yeon first asked why he would, but Lee Jae-hai revealed that she was just like him. They kissed and realized that they were soulmates. A few days later, the boy who molested Jung Ha-young publicly apologized to everyone. People whispered that it was because Lee Jae-hai took Lee Ki-yeon's side. However, he is now more important than her. The men kept whispering to each other, "What is it about this Jung Ha-young that makes her so dear to Lee Ki-yeon?" However, they saw Lee Ki-yeon walking by and looking at them, and instantly fell silent. In yesterday's conversation, Lee Ki-yeon asked Lee Jae-hai to finish the situation on her own and watch over Jung Ha-young. Lee Jae-hai asked if his goal for now was to end things so that people wouldn't make any noise. Lee Jae-hai rightly noticed that in such a situation, all the circumstances would be created for Jung Ha-young to rely only on Lee Ki-yeon, and said that there was something in this girl, if Lee Ki-yeon noticed and singled her out. Lee Ki-yeon had been listening to Jung Ha-young's mental problems for several days, gaining her trust. Jung Ha-young is happy to have him, and he also teaches her magic every day. Lee Ki-yeon asked if Jung Ha-young was already able to use basic magic. Jung Ha-young disappointedly replied that not yet. Lee Ki-yeon created a basic spark to show Jung Ha-young something simple. In fact, Lee Ki-yeon has not only been dealing with Jung Ha-young's case lately. The two of them, along with Park Do-koo, trained constantly so that each would get used to their own specialization. Lee Ki-yeon suggested that Jung Ha-young couldn't cast spells until she got her specialization, and then things would be much better. Until then, Lee Ki-yeon suggested that they train together, which Jung Ha-young is very happy about. Lee Ki-yeon was about to finish for today and leave, but Jung Ha-young suddenly said that her mana had risen again. Lee Ki-yeon is happy about this because there will be a specialization soon, and he called the status window of Jung Ha-young. Lee Ki-yeon looked at the state window in despair. Jung Ha-young already had a mage specialization. Jung Ha-young said that she still didn't understand how to use mana, but Lee Ki-yeon understood that this was a complete lie. Jung Ha-young is surprised by Lee Ki-yeon's reaction, but he tells her that he was just thinking. About himself, Lee Ki-yeon couldn't believe that Jung Ha-young had lied to him all this time, and even more so, he didn't know why. Jung Ha-young asked again how to use mana because she was having a hard time even after his explanation. Lee Ki-yeon remembered her feature in the status window, the instant and perfect absorption of any magical knowledge. Lee Ki-yeon suggested once again to recreate the picture from his head into reality together. He guided Jung Ha-young's hand and asked him to imagine a light on his finger. Jung Ha-young created a miniature fire, which went out in an instant. Lee Ki-yeon looked at her with great suspicion. While Jung Ha-young was feeling like she was up to no good, Lee Ki-yeon understood that she had just failed on purpose, as if she was weak and incapable of magic. Jung Ha-young asked to repeat it again, but Lee Ki-yeon refused and said that it was time for him. Park Ha-yeon, Lee Jae-hai's main assistant, approached them and asked to give her a moment. Lee Ki-yeon agreed and followed her. He did not understand what the reason was, because the situation had already been resolved. Lee Ki-yeon asked what happened, and Park Ha-yeon said that the lineup for the next hunt is being announced today. Park Ha-yeon was very reluctant to join the hunt because it was quite a chance to prove herself. Lee Ki-yeon looked at her status window and basically didn't see anything bad or extraordinary. Lee Ki-yeon said out loud that he nominated Jung Ha-young first. Park Ha-yeon countered that they needed someone to fight anyway. She would be much better than Jung Ha-young's child. Lee Ki-yeon thought it was very rude to the future archmage, but Park Ha-yeon would benefit. Lee Ki-yeon promised that he would talk to Kim Hyun-sung, but made no guarantees. Meetings are announced. Lee Jae-hai drew attention to an important announcement regarding the upcoming hunt. After that, she gave the floor to Kim Hyun-sung. Jung Ha-young was also standing in the crowd because she is walking with them. Kim Hyun-sung said that continuing to survive in this place is very problematic, so he and the people who have the will to fight will gradually train. Jung Ha-yang thought her heart was about to jump out when Lee Ki-yeon touched her hand. He was the only one she could rely on. Jung Ha-young is ashamed that she is lying, but that is the only way to interest Lee Ki-young. Park Ha-yeon bumped into Jung Ha-young a little earlier. She asks if Jung Ha-young is here waiting for Lee Ki-young and says that the girl looks like a stalker. Park Ha-yeon asked if Jung Ha-young is so worried about Lee Ki-yeon talking to other girls. Jung Ha-young tried to deny it, but Park Ha-young can see perfectly how Jung Ha-young likes Lee Ki-young. Park Ha-yeon asked if Jung Ha-young really believes that Lee Ki-yeon cherishes her. Jung Ha-young is just lucky to be in the same pen as Lee Ki-young on the first day, and he actually doesn't like her. Park Ha-yeon said that she understands Lee Ki-yeon's personality very well. He does not trust anyone, quickly loses interest, abandons people as soon as they become unnecessary. And a weak girl like Jung Ha-young will quickly tire of him. Jung Ha-young trembled and said that Lee Ki-yeon is not like that. Park Ha-yeon replied that she understood why Lee Ki-yeon chose Jung Ha-young. She's a great card to squeeze the most out of and discard as unnecessary. Jung Ha-young demanded that Park Ha-young stop it, and just then it was announced that the two of them would go hunting in the main squad. Park Ha-yeon was glad that Lee Ki-yeon listened to her. Park Ha-yeon shoved Jung Ha-young with her shoulder and left. Jung Ha-young thought that Lee Ki-yeon could not do this because he supported her so much and promised to train together. He was always there for her. Jung Ha-young decided that even if she wasn't a very smart person, she still understood that Lee Ki-yeon really valued her, and Park Ha-yeon was just lying, so she shouldn't be listened to under any circumstances. Visions of Lee Ki-yeon abandoning her and choosing Park Ha-yeon flashed through Jung Ha-young's mind. Jung Ha-young cried and screamed. She doesn't want this to happen, and mentally begged Lee Ki-yeon not to leave her alone. Kim Hyun-sung gave the floor to Lee Ki-yeon. He went to the center of the podium and caused flames on his hand with magic. People are scared. They did not expect to see something like this. Lee Ki-yeon explained to everyone that they are not on Earth right now. The status window, features, specialization, this is more and more reminiscent of the game world. And his specialization in this world is mag. Lee Ki-yeon revealed that even though he is a newcomer, he is also a human being just like all of them. In the beginning, it was also normal for him to run and hide from monsters in fear for his own life. Lee Ki-yeon noted that if you are not afraid and fight, you can gain the strength with which victory becomes possible. Everyone present must become more active. Only in this way they will be able to survive and escape from here. The crowd cheered for Lee Ki-yeon. Kim Hyun-sung said it was a good reaction, but Lee Ki-yeon noted that very soon there would be those who would deny it, or on the contrary, try too hard and exhaust themselves. As an example, Lee Ki-yeon suggested joining Jung Ha-young and Park Ha-yeon. Park Ha-yeon ascended to the podium, surrounded by applause and cheers from the crowd. She asked Lee Ki-yeon to take care of her. Lee Ki-yeon shook her hand in welcome to the corral before pulling her closer and whispering in her ear that he had recently seen Park Ha-yeon push Jung Ha-young. Park Ha-yeon was quite frightened. In the same threatening tone, Lee Ki-yeon warned Park Ha-yeon that they should be friends with each other and stick to the boundaries. If Park Ha-yeon touches Jung Ha-young again, her life will become unbearable. Lee Ki-yeon asked if Park Ha-yeon understood him, and she nodded. After that, Lee Ki-yeon again put on the mask of benevolence and loudly asked Park Ha-yeon to take care of him in this difficult adventure. While Lee Ki-yeon was looking for Jung Ha-young in the crowd, not understanding why she didn't go up on the stage, he saw a simply terrifying aura from her. Lee Ki-yeon couldn't understand what had just happened. Park Daeok-koo asked if Lee Ki-yeon had a headache and insisted that he should rest properly before tomorrow. Park Daeok-koo believed that Lee Ki-yeon is constantly worried about others. He should rest himself. While Lee Ki-yeon waved to Jung Ha-young from the podium, Park Ha-yeon thought things had gone awry. She had worked hard to serve Lee Ji-hae to rise to this position, and then the power changed. Lee Ji-hae called Park Ha-yeon and asked if she would do well tomorrow, especially with Lee Ki-yeon's comfort. Park Ha-yeon thinks that she is now being asked to serve Lee Ki-yeon, and it is terrible. Lee Ji-hae said yes, if necessary, Park Ha-yeon should do it. What's wrong with having points of intersection with influential people? Lee Ji-hae needs as many guarantees of loyalty as possible. Park Ha-yeon looked at Lee Ki-yeon and thought that this goat that appeared from nowhere had instantly overthrown Li Jihai and gained real power. Park Hai-yeon understood that Li Qiyan was not an ordinary guy. Park Ha-yeon thought she might find herself even lower in status than Jung Ha-young at any moment, and decided to do whatever it took to get Li Qiyan's attention, because that was the only way she would survive. The next day, Kim Hyun-sung was assigning roles in the squad. He and Park Deok-koo will be leading the way, while Li Qiyan, Park Ha-yeon, and Jung Ha-young will support their positions from the back. Kim Hyun-sung said that since this is Jung Ha-young and Park Ha-young's first outing, it is necessary to focus on their safety. He asked very much to cooperate with them and help to adapt to hunting. While Kim Hyun-sung was explaining the tactics, Lee Ki-young was looking at Jung Ha-young. Her face has an expression of utter madness, just like yesterday. Lee Ki-yeon thought he was too fixated on Jung Ha-young, so he guessed. Lee Ki-yeon decided to observe Jung Ha-young before jumping to conclusions, and Park Ha-yeon really doesn't like the relationship between them. With these thoughts, the squad went on their first hunt. The squad was immediately attacked by various monsters. Kim Hyun-sung, Park Deok-koo, and Lee Ki-young were fighting them as usual, but Jung Ha-young and Park Ha-young were standing behind in fear. However, when Jung Ha-young saw Lee Ki-yeon kill the monster, she immediately started to glow, looking at him with loving eyes. Park Ha-yeon is horrified and doesn't understand what could be attractive here. When all the monsters were killed, Park Deok-koo asked his comrades why there were so many small monsters today. Kim Hyun-sung replied that it was a bad sign and they should be on their toes. It was at this moment that a large ogre jumped out of nowhere at Park Deok-koo. Park Deok-koo deflected his attack with his shield and pushed the ogre away. Park Deok-koo screamed for help because he was having a hard time restraining the ogre. Lee Ki-yeon yelled at Park Ha-yeon that she should chop down the monster right now. She didn't understand how, and Lee Ki-yeon told her to just strike with the spear she was holding just quickly. Park Ha-yeon instead froze and thought that it was much worse than she imagined. However, she persuaded herself to pull herself together because she has to look good in front of others, especially in front of Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Ki-yeon thought irritably that she had only recently been acting cool. He directed Park Ha-yeon's spear with his own hands and said that if she slowed down like that next time, they would die. Lee Ki-yeon asked Park Ha-yeon to put her strength into her hands, then speared the ogre with her, causing the monster to cry out in agony. Lee Ki-yeon told Park Ha-yeon that she shouldn't relax because the ogre is still alive. She should see the ogre as a piece of meat. From these words, Park Ha-yeon thought that Lee Ki-yeon was a sick psychopath. When the ogre finally died, Park Ha-yeon fell to the floor and breathed heavily, trying to regain consciousness. Lee Ki-yeon told her that this was the first and last time he helped her. She had to fend for herself from now on. Lee Ki-yeon said that in this world you can't just rely on the help of others. Luckily for Park Ha-yeon, today was a training day. But next time she'll be surviving on her own. While Park Ha-yeon wondered what else could be expected from such a person, Lee Ki-yeon loudly said that she did a great job. Jung Ha-yang was watching this, and she was once again angry, almost crazy. The squad camped for the night. Kim Hyun-sung and Jung Ha-young were left in the fire. Kim Hyun-sung said that next it's Park Deok-koo's turn to stay awake, and Jung Ha-young should go to bed. She did a great job today. Park Deok-koo was woken up by Kim Hyun-sung. Park Deok-koo tried to flatter him, saying that Kim Hyun-sung has great endurance, but Kim Hyun-sung did not react to this frank provocation and went to sleep. Meanwhile, Lee Ki-yeon couldn't fall asleep, even though he was really tired. Unnecessary thoughts began to swirl in his head. After this hunt is over, in which direction should he move further in order to survive? What kind of continent did Lee Ki-yeon think the goddess was talking about? Why did he even get into this world? And that he does not really regret the loss of his house, it was not a very good life there. Towards the end, Lee Ki-yeon decided that if Kim Hyun-sung is a regressor as indicated in his status window, then he must know what happened at this location in the past. Lee Ki-yeon wonders why he came back to this world. When Lee Ki-yeon woke up, he saw Jung Ha-young above him with an absolutely insane expression on his face. Lee Ki-yeon tried to convince himself that it was a dream. Jung Ha-young is actually kind. Meanwhile, Jung Ha-young walked over to what she thought was Lee Ki-yeon, who was sleeping, and gently stroked his hair. She thought that Lee Ki-yeon had a very cute face and that she wouldn't let anyone take it away from her. When Lee Ki-yeon woke up, Kim Hyun-sung asked if he was okay because Lee Ki-yeon looked exhausted. Lee Ki-yeon just waved off that he was a little tired, but he was fine. He is worried about Jung Ha-young. Lee Ki-yeon's gaze fell on Park Ha-yeon's dissatisfaction with life, and he suddenly thought that Jung Ha-young's condition might be related to the fact that he had been talking to Park Ha-yeon lately. It might be jealousy. Kim Hyun-sung said that they will go a little deeper today. If they decide that it is too difficult there, they will return to the place of rest. Everyone agreed with this plan. Lee Ki-yeon decided to test his theory with jealousy. He quietly pushed a pebble under Park Ha-yeon's feet and caught her as she fell, tripping over the barrier. While Park Ha-yeon wondered what had come over Lee Ki-yeon, he turned to look at Jung Ha-young. But she looked like an angry demon, and a terrifying aura emanated from her. Lee Ki-yeon realized that he was not mistaken. Lee Ki-yeon thought in confusion that he had achieved an unexpected result. He just wanted to take the position of an older brother, not something so bloodthirsty and in love. Park Ha-yeon is furious. She understood what Lee Ki-yeon had just done and wondered if he really had the audacity to use her. Park Ha-yeon wanted to see how long Lee Ki-yeon could ignore her. As the squad walked down the corridor, Lee Ki-yeon heard something. He looked around, but there was no one around. Lee Ki-yeon concluded that the monsters were approaching and asked everyone to speak more quietly. Lee Ki-yeon felt something. Park Dok-koo asked if he could see monsters hiding, but that's not the point. Lee Ki-yeon has had a weak sense of mana since recently, and now as well. Park Deok-koo quickly ran forward to see what was ahead. Everyone else ran after him and asked him to slow down. Suddenly, Park Deok-koo stopped, shocked. In front of them lay the stairs down. Kim Hyun-sung said that it must be the stairs to the dungeon, and there must be something of value hidden there. Lee Ki-yeon smiled because the actor with Kim Hyun-sung is so-so, but decided to play on his insecurities. They assumed that these stairs must lead to the training dungeon and decided to concentrate on it. It made sense, because clearing all the dungeons is very difficult and takes a long time. Kim Hyun-sung made a notch on the stone with his sword to remember the place and suggested to start the preparation. A little further away, just in time to see the figures of 3 monsters, which will be suitable for training girls. Kim Hyun-sung ordered Lee Ki-yeon and Park Dok-koo to deal with 2 Cyclops and keep the 3rd one for practice. The boys enthusiastically rushed to carry out this instruction. Park Dok-koo hit one of the Cyclops with his shield, restraining him, and asked Lee Ki-yeon for help. Lee Ki-yeon created a flame that engulfed his spear and set the Cyclops on fire with a single blow. At the same time, Kim Hyun-sung cut off the head of the 2nd Cyclops with his sword. Park Deok-koo held the latter in check. It was time for the girls to show themselves and kill the monster. However, at that moment, everyone noticed that Park Ha-yeon was not next to Jung Ha-young. It was as if she had just been there and suddenly disappeared. Lee Ki-yeon said that he should join them soon. Suddenly, the head of the last Cyclops was pierced by a sharp stake, causing him considerable damage. Everyone looked at this in surprise, and Park Ha-yeon appeared from the far corner of the room. Unfortunately, due to the fact that it was not possible to kill the Cyclops with one blow, he became enraged. Park Dok-koo kicked away and nearly bit off Lee Ki-yeon's head. Kim Hyun-sung's reaction saved their lives. Suddenly, a wild scream was heard nearby. Park Ha-yeon breathed heavily and screamed in terror, then apologized for catching up with them late. She fell down and got scared, so she couldn't keep up with the others. Everyone looked at Park Ha-yeon with horror, but she did not understand the reason. Tried to justify that she only wanted to help, and that is why she threw the spear. Lee Ki-yeon, on the other hand, thought that now all the monsters would run screaming. Lee Ki-yeon told the others that it was getting too dangerous here, and they should run as far away as possible from here immediately. Jung Ha-young looked scared and mad at the same time at those words. At this time, Park Ha-yeon thought that Lee Ki-yeon was not really helping. He was just a parasite. That the camp was functioning perfectly without Lee Ki-yeon, and that she would go to great lengths to keep him in this dungeon forever. While everyone was running away from the new monsters, Park Dok-koo offered to distract them. Kim Hyun-sung, in turn, offered to make a hook and return to the stopping place. Lee Ki-yeon turned around to see Park Ha-yeon and Jung Ha-young still standing there. He ushered them in. Jung Ho-young answered calmly, and Park Hae-young showed her middle finger. Lee Ki-yeon realized that Park Hae-yeon is deliberately holding everyone back and thinks he made a big mistake by taking her into the squad. However, they are with Park Dok-koo and Kim Hyun-sung, so the chances of survival are high. Lee Ki-yong summoned flames that he used to attack new enemies. Park Dok-koo was desperate to help, and the two of them defeated the three ogres. Park Dok-koo suddenly asked why there were only the two of them in the corridor. Lee Ki-yong looked around in a panic and realized that there really was no one behind him. The girls had disappeared. Park Dok-koo apologized for not noticing as they were running right behind them, but Lee Ki-yeon calmed him down. He hates Park Hae-yeon, but losing Jung Ha-young is unacceptable. Lee Ki-yeon offered to go back and look for them. Park Dok-koo agreed. Suddenly, Lee Ki-yeon saw a trace of someone's mana and realized that it was Jung Ha-young's magic. He immediately assumed the worst. Lee Ki-yeon sent Park Dok-koo to look in one direction, while he headed to the corridor where the mana trail led. He mentally begged Jung Ha-young not to do what he feared. In the hallway, Park Hae-yeon was laying out pebbles and thought that they had finally gone far enough. She praised herself for learning the dungeon corridors so well. Jung Ha-young noticed that Park Hae-young's leg was fine. She assumed that Park Hae-yeon fell on purpose to kill Lee Ki-yeon. While Park Hae-yeon wondered, Jung Ha-young created a cage of magic around them. Jung Ha-young said that no matter how much she thought, it was no good. And while Park Hae-yeon was yelling at her for being an idiot and doing something stupid, Jung Ha-young conjured a wind blade. Park Hae-yeon didn't even blink an eye, and Jung Ha-young had already cut off her legs with magic. Park Hae-yeon screamed in pain and called for help, and Jung Ha-young said that it was useless, because of the magic, no one would hear her. Park Hae-yeon began to cry and humiliate herself. She asked why Jung Ha-young did this to her, and then she apologized and said that it was all her fault, begging for forgiveness. Jung Ha-young replied that Park Hae-yeon is making too much noise. She taped her mouth shut and asked if Park Hae-yeon was in a lot of pain. She said that she had to go through all the pain that Jung Ha-young herself went through. Jung Ha-young looked at Park Hae-yeon with a crazy look and said that when she tried to take Lee Ki-yeon away from her, it was very painful, as if her heart was being ripped out of her chest. Jung Ha-young revealed that the very existence of Park Hae-yeon hurts her a lot, and that's why she is forced. Park Hae-yeon begged to be saved, but Jung Ha-young conjured another wind blade. Lee Ki-yeon had just found Jung Ha-young and was running towards her with words of relief when Park Hae-yeon's severed hand flashed before his eyes. Direct proof. At that second, Jung Ha-young froze and looked at Lee Ki-yeon with frightened eyes. She realized what had just happened and was completely confused, did not know how to justify herself. Lee Ki-yeon cursed himself. Thought he knew this was going to happen, wanted to stop Jung Ha-young before she killed Park Hae-yeon, but it was too late. Lee Ki-yeon's hands were shaking. He was very scared to be next to Jung Ha-young. For a moment, he thought that it would be better to run away, but he pulled himself together and realized that this was not the best option. Lee Ki-yeon approached Jung Ha-young and asked if she was okay. Jung Ha-young is surprised by this reaction. Lee Ki-yeon asked what happened to Park Hae-yeon. He hoped that Jung Ha-young would answer correctly. Lee Ki-yeon mentally told Jung Ha-young that the right answer was very simple. And Jung Ha-young did. She gasped and said she had no idea how it happened. She just suddenly found herself far away from the others. Jung Ha-young said that when she regained consciousness, she was already in this state before Park Hae-yeon. Park Hae-yeon looked at her like a monster. Lee Ki-yeon said it was terrible and asked if Jung Ha-young was injured. Jung Ha-young said she was fine and snuggled up to Lee Ki-yeon. She looked over her shoulder at Park Hae-yeon with a look of triumph. Lee Ki-yeon thought she was well done and made the right choice. Park Hae-yeon died and finally cursed Lee Ki-yeon and Jung Ha-young. Lee Ki-yeon looked at her and said that Park Hae-yeon must have accidentally activated the trap that the dungeons are filled with. Lee Ki-yeon walked over to Park Hae-yeon's remains and said that this is a common thing in the dungeons. Jung Ha-young probably didn't even notice when she passed through the mana wall. The script is ready in his head. Lee Ki-yeon looked critically at the body and thought that the cuts were too obvious, Kim Hyun-sung guesses. Therefore, instead of carrying the remains to the camp, he burned them on the spot with his flame. Jung Ha-young called out to Lee Ki-yeon a little uncertainly, but he only said that their lives might be in danger if they carried the remains to the halt. But he couldn't abandon Park Ha-yeon like that. Lee Ki-yeon remarked that it was the best choice, and Jung Ha-young agreed with him. She was giggling madly behind Lee Ki-yeon's back, and he thought that not only Jung Ha-young had become a monster, but himself as well. When Lee Ki-yeon and Jung Ha-young returned to Park Deok-koo, he asked if they were okay and if Park Ha-young was okay. Lee Ki-yeon just shook his head in response, while Jung Ha-young stared at the floor. Lee Ki-yeon asked what about the other monsters, and was relieved to hear from Park Deok-koo that Kim Hyun-sung had led them away. It's a good thing Kim Hyun-sung isn't around. He would have suspected something. Suddenly, Lee Ki-yeon felt dizzy and almost passed out. Park Deok-koo picked him up and asked what happened. Lee Ki-yeon replied that he simply used too much mana at once. Lee Ki-yeon said that he just needed to rest for a while, but Park Deok-koo insisted that he should take a break. Jung Ho-yang wondered if Lee Ki-young was really so shocked by what he saw. While Park Deok-koo was lighting the fire, he said that he felt sorry for Park Ha-yeon because she was somehow helping. Lee Ki-yeon countered that they all nearly died today because of her. Lee Ki-yeon said they should be thankful to be alive. If Park Deok-koo or Jung Ha-young died, he wouldn't be able to take it. Park Deok-koo and Jung Ha-young are moved by these words. Park Deok-koo notes that everyone should rest while he goes on a little scouting. He insisted that it was necessary since he was a protector and asked Jung Ha-young to keep an eye on Lee Ki-yeon. Left alone with Jung Ha-young, Lee Ki-yeon opened his status window. His luck had unexpectedly risen by 2 points, so the situation was not as bad as it seemed. Jung Ha-young asked if Lee Ki-yeon's numbers had increased, but she said that she had almost no growth. Lee Ki-yeon also secretly looked at her window. Nothing much had really changed there. Suddenly, Jung Ha-young asked if what happened to Park Ha-young made Lee Ki-yeon sad. Lee Ki-yeon thought that he still has some remorse and is very scared, but he says otherwise. Lee Ki-yeon held Jung Ha-young close and said he was happy she was unharmed. Jung Ha-young laughed happily, and Lee Ki-yeon thought that he would do anything for his own survival. Lee Ki-yeon decided that if this has already happened, then it is better to tie Jung Ha-young to him as a lover. It will be faster than the elder brother, younger sister relationship. Lee Ki-yeon reached for Jung Ha-young, but at that moment, Park Deok-koo returned. He awkwardly coughed and apologized for ruining such an atmosphere, while Jung Ha-young glared at him. When Jung Ha-young turned around, she looked normal again, babbling that it was okay, everything was fine. For some reason, Park Deok-koo was worried about whether he had come too soon. Lee Ki-yeon asked Park Deok-koo what kind of fool he was. Park Deok-koo replied that there is no need to act stupid. He knows very well that Lee Ki-yeon likes Jung Ha-young. Lee Ki-yeon asked why Park Deok-koo addresses Jung Ha-young as older since she is younger than him. Park Deok-koo replied that where do we see it, that the elder brother's bride is treated like a younger one. While Jung Ha-young was blushing at what he heard, Lee Ki-yeon thought that how much Jung Ha-young was fixated on him looked strange, and wondered if Park Deok-koo was pushing her to do this. In the next moment, Park Deok-koo confirmed Lee Ki-yeon's suspicions and said that he had actually been constantly promoting the relationship between Lee Ki-yeon and Jung Ha-young, as he is a famous matchmaker in the real world. Park Deok-koo said that he will do everything to make Lee Ki-yeon and Jung Ha-young as close as possible. Lee Ki-yeon angrily decided that Park Deok-koo was a beast and would definitely pay for what he had done. The next morning, Lee Ki-yeon was the first to wake up, so he woke up Park Deok-koo first, who was resisting, and then went to Jung Ha-young. He wanted to wake her up too, but suddenly he was afraid that he would see the monster again. Lee Ki-yeon feels that the closer he is to Jung Ha-young, the closer death is to him, but he pulls himself together and decides to deepen their relationship for the sake of survival at any cost. Jung Ha-young immediately woke up as cute as ever, but even her appearance scared Lee Ki-yeon. He said that it was time to get up and they would all go to the camp at once. At the camp, Lee Jae-hi sat with a coffee in her hands and was nervous that the squad was being delayed. She hoped they were all right, until suddenly she heard happy voices that Lee Ki-yeon was back. Lee Jae-hi ran to the squad and told them they were great, then asked where Park Ha-yeon and Kim Hyun-sung were. Lee Ki-yeon replied that Park Ha-yeon is dead and Kim Hyun-sung will be back soon. Lee Jae-hi asked in horror how this happened. But Lee Ki-yeon had a more important question. Why was the entrance to the camp blocked? Lee Jae-hi asked to speak with him alone. Lee Ki-yeon saw Jung Ha-young's angry reaction to this and asked her to wait for him, as this is an important conversation. He seemed to beg Jung Ha-young not to kill Lee Jae-hai, and she agreed. Lee Jae-hai notes that Park Ha-yeon is dead, but she's being talked about like an object, so she's up to something. Lee Ka-yeon replied that she screamed in a place full of monsters, and Lee Jae-hai believed it. Glad that Lee Jae-hai didn't ask any more awkward questions, Lee Ki-yeon asked again why the gate was closed. Lee Jae-hai said that yesterday morning, several people went outside with Yoo Seok-woo. Lee Ki-yeon realized that it was not for nothing that he had expected trouble from the boy who let his hands loose. Lee Jae-hai said that they went to save their squad and close the gate in case the monsters were attracted. It was at this moment that Yoo Seok-woo returned with his men. He pretended to be happy that Lee Ki-yeon was fine. Lee Jae-hai regretted that the convenient girl was dead, and the troubled boy was alive. Yoo Seok-woo did not come back alone but with some new man. Lee Ki-yeon looked at the new arrival with horror, because he looked like a real maniac and he would 100% cause problems. Lee Ka-yeon told Lee Jae-hai that this is the first time Yoo Seok-woo has seen the people behind him. He asked how many people left the camp. Lee Jae-hai replied that there were 7 and 6 of them did not return. Lee Ki-yeon decided that it was no wonder that the frivolous foray had ended in death. Yoo Seok-woo didn't die because he was helped by these new ones who even look scary. Lee Ki-yeon opened the windows of this terrifying man's condition. His name is Jung Jin-ho, and he is a cold-blooded killer by nature. Lee Ki-yeon's blood froze in his veins. Lee Ki-yeon asked Lee Jae-hai to call Park Deo-koo and Jung Ha-young, while he was preparing to conjure up the flames by surprise when he suddenly heard a polite greeting. Jung Ji-ho held out his hand and pretended to be nice to meet you. Lee Ki-yeon introduced himself, and Jung Ji-ho said that he had heard a lot about him from Yoo Seok-woo, especially his fire ability. While Jung Ji-ho said that he had long dreamed of seeing the magic being done with his own eyes, Lee Ki-yeon angrily thought about how much damn Yoo Seok-woo had told Jung Ji-ho about him and his abilities. The rookies followed Lee Ka-yeon deep into the camp. All the people happily greeted Lee Ki-yeon and asked how he was doing, and he also chatted with others with a fake wide smile. Jung Ji-ho looked around the camp and noticed that there were almost no survivors in the direction from the starting point where he had gone, so he did not believe that there was such an oasis here. Lee Ki-yeon decided that Jung Ji-ho wanted to kill everyone. Park Dok-koo and Jung Ha-young ran up to Lee Ki-yeon. They asked what happened, and Lee Ki-yeon introduced them to the newcomers. Park Dok-koo and Jung Ha-young froze, and Lee Ki-yeon could tell that they too were scared. Jung Ji-ho said that he expected a warmer meeting. Lee Ki-yeon responded that the circumstances were not very pleasant, and if Jung Ji-ho was offended by it, he apologized. Jung Ji-ho waved it off. Everything was fine, and then told him that there was a unit in the area that hunts not monsters, but humans. There was an archer and a swordsman in it. Jung Ji-ho asked if they had been seen here. Lee Ki-yeon decided that Jung Ji-ho was a crazy psychopath and wondered if he was alluding to himself, and said out loud that they had never seen anyone like him before. Tension began to spread between the groups. Jung Ji-ho had already grabbed his weapon when Kim Hyun-sung suddenly appeared and asked menacingly what was going on here. His appearance smoothed the conflict, and the fight did not start. Jung Ji-ho clicked his tongue and told Lee Ki-yeon that it was nice to meet you. Kim Hyun-sung confusedly asked who it was, and Lee Ki-yeon replied that Yoo Seok-woo had brought these people. Jung Ji-ho has heard a lot about Kim Hyun-sung and is happy to meet him and hopes for a fruitful collaboration. Kim Hyun-sung's eyes became icy at this moment. Something made him very tense. Lee Ki-yeon knew something was wrong. He saw Kim Hyun-sung for the first time as if he was barely holding back his anger. From the looks of it, Jung Ji-ho saw Kim Hyun-sung for the first time, so they were enemies before. Lee Ki-yeon touched Kim Hyun-sung's shoulder, and he regained consciousness, greeting Jung Ji-ho. Lee Ki-yeon decided that he had 2 hypotheses for now. The first, no matter how you look at it, Jung Ji-ho is a cold-blooded killer. Jung Ji-ho, meanwhile, told Kim Hyun-sung that he was honored to finally meet the head of the camp and would also be interested to know his strength. Kim Hyun-sung refused. It's too much. Jung Ji-ho didn't insist if Kim Hyun-sung was uncomfortable, but noted that there were far more supplies in the camp than survivors, and casually inquired where they came from. Judging by Kim Hyun-sung's reaction, Lee Ki-yeon put forward a second hypothesis. When he first came here, Kim Hyun-sung had already met Jung Ji-ho, and he may have killed people close to him. Jung Ji-ho smiled and asked if his squad could stay in the camp with everyone. Of course, he offered supplies in exchange and said he would understand if Kim Hyun-sung didn't like them. Kim Hyun-sung unexpectedly agreed. Lee Ki-young was quite surprised by such a decision. The newcomers got to know other members of the camp and asked to take care of them properly. Lee Kai-yeon asked Park Deok-koo to lead the newcomers instead of Lee Jae-hai. Park Deok-koo asked if Lee Kai-yeon was sure, but Lee Ki-yeon only asked him to call if something happened. Park Deok-koo called the newcomers after him and said that it is not very comfortable here, but it is still better than hanging around outside. Jung Ji-ho laughed warmly and thanked him for his concern. Lee Ki-yeon looked at Kim Hyun-sung and decided that he would rather keep the enemy close to him. It was rational, albeit unexpected. And what's more, Jung Ji-ho is smart because he pretended to be obedient right away. Lee Ki-yeon has decided that Jung Ji-ho is an intelligent psychopathic killer, and that intelligence is the only thing they have in common. However, Lee Ki-yeon was grateful to Jung Ji-ho for her appearance, as she was very timely. Lee Ki-yeon tried to talk to Kim Hyun-sung, but he didn't respond the first time. Lee Ki-yeon asked if Jung Ji-ho already knew Kim Hyun-sung, because that's what it looks like. Kim Hyun-sung said that he once saw Jung Ji-ho in passing, but he didn't see him, so it's hard to call it an acquaintance. Lee Ki-yeon promised not to tell anyone, raising his level of confidence. Lee Ki-yeon praised Kim Hyun-sung as he came back without a single scratch. Kim Hyun-sung asked if everything was okay, and Lee Ki-yeon sighed heavily before telling him about Park Hae-yeon's death. Kim Hyun-sung was shocked, so he immediately asked how it happened. Lee Ki-yeon reported that he wasn't sure, but it could be magic of unknown origin. Jong Ha-young next to him was petrified at what he heard. Lee Ki-yeon shared his story about the magical dungeon trap. He understood that Kim Hyun-sung would most likely not believe him, because he was not in this world for the first time and he should know that there are no traps in the dungeon. Lee Ki-yeon pretended to cry and said that he wanted to take Park Hae-yeon's corpse out of there, but he couldn't, so he burned it. With tears in his eyes, Jung Ha-young asked if Lee Ki-yeon was okay. Lee Ki-yeon was glad that he decided to play this performance as realistically as possible. Yesterday, his story would not have been believable, but today, the suspicious Jung Ji-ho made an incredibly successful appearance. Of course, the story of Lee Ki-yeon was not followed by words like Jung Ji-ho is a murderer, because Kim Hyun-sung has to come to the conclusion that it was Jung Ji-ho who killed Park Hae-yeon. Lee Ki-yeon played his part as if he didn't know anything. For the past few days, Kim Hyun-sung had been closely watching Jung Ji-ho's group and had come to the necessary conclusions himself. Lee Ki-yeon knew that now was the best time to get rid of Jung Ji-ho, but he didn't fully understand how to do it. Lee Ki-yeon said that they came back from the dungeon empty-handed, so they can try to go through it with brand new ones. It was just then that Jung Ha-young admitted that she had received a mage specialization. Lee Ki-yeon thought that if Kim Hyun-sung already considered Jung Ji-ho's men to be Park Hae-yeon's killers, then he should agree to get rid of them in the dungeon, and everything turned out as well as possible. Kim Hyun-sung pondered this tempting offer for a long time, but in the end he agreed, suggesting that they split into two groups, since they had not worked with the newcomers before. Jung Ji-ho helped build the wall at the camp, receiving many compliments from the girls who constantly circled around him and saw him as a friendly helper. Lee Ki-yeon watched this and mused that Jung Ji-ho was too caught up in playing the role of a pretty boy, when in reality, his goal was the necks of all these people. Lee Ki-yeon called Jung Ha-young and Park Deok-koo into a conversation, during which Jung Ha-young revealed that she learned a new spell today that uses air as a conductor. Lee Ki-yeon thought that Jung Ha-young has been getting bolder lately, even openly snuggling up to him, making the other people in the camp think their relationship is something real. Park Deok-koo noted that Lee Ki-yeon ended his conversation with Kim Hyun-sung earlier than expected. Lee Ki-yeon asked if they were free since they all had to go to the dungeon with Jung Ji-ho's men after a while. Park Deok-koo said that he had a bad feeling about these people. Lee Ki-yeon shared his opinion, but they needed another foray for supplies. Park Deok-koo, Lee Ki-yeon, and Jung Ha-young agreed to keep their distance with the new and confident steps he took towards Kim Hyun-sung. According to Park Deok-koo, Kim Hyun-sung looked like he was hiding something delicious. Kim Hyun-sung said that it was all small things, and he gave these things to them so that they could see for themselves. When the bag was opened, they saw that there were magical objects inside the bag. Kim Hyun-sung said that when they passed, he found something that looked like a chest, and inside it was all this. The three artifacts are just right for Lee Ki-yeon, Park Deok-koo, and Jung Ha-young. Lee Ki-young was once again incredibly happy that he had reached someone who already knew these dungeons. Lee Ki-yeon asked Kim Hyun-sung if it would be okay if they took these things. Kim Hyun-sung replied that he already had the artifact, and their abilities could not be used together. Kim Hyun-sung said that they don't have to give him anything in return, because they are now friends. Lee Ki-young thought that this ostentatious benevolence was not to be believed. Lee Ki-young thought that compared to Park Deok-koo and Jung Ha-young, his qualifications were very unclear. There will be many like him on the continent, but Kim Hyun-sung cannot do without Lee Ki-yeon if he wants to fight together. Park Deok-koo asked when they were leaving, and Kim Hyun-sung said as soon as possible, but he still had a silly feeling about the newbies. Kim Hyun-sung asks to think that they are going to fight the enemies. All four stand in a circle and put their hands together for a battle cry. Such a simple ritual gave everyone strength and confidence in the success of the future expedition. Lee Ki-yeon mentally asked Jung Ji-ho to prepare for the day when he would be given a fair sentence, and Lee Ki-yeon himself would make everything as beautiful as possible so that no one would have any doubts. Yoo Seok-woo asked Jung Ji-ho if they should really go to the dungeon with Kim Hyun-sung's companions. To which Jung Ji-ho said that there, with one well-placed blow of the sword, everything would be solved. Soon, everyone gathered before leaving, and Kim Hyun-sung thanked Jung Ji-ho for accepting his offer. Jung Ji-ho thanked each other for the invitation and expressed hope for fruitful work. Jung Jae-ho said it was just amazing what they found in the dungeons of the dungeon. Lee Ki-yeon replied that they accidentally ran into him, and it was like a survive or clear condition. Lee Ki-yeon tried his best to lull Jung Ji-ho's attention with empty talk. Behind them walked a disgruntled Yoo Seok-woo, drilling Lee Ki-yeon's back with an angry glare. Jung Ji-ho noticed that Lee Ki-yeon was always hanging out with Jung Ha-young and suggested that they were a couple. Jung Ha-young instantly blushed at this, and Lee Ki-yeon became angry at yet another pimp. In the end, Lee Ki-yeon decided that he had to maintain his legend in order to get closer to Jung Ha-young and unexpectedly confirmed that they were a couple. Everyone around was happy to hear this except Yoo Seok-woo. Meanwhile, they were already close to the dungeon and decided to descend immediately. Park Deok-koo raised the heavy gate at the bottom of the stairs, and everyone activated a rare quest. Survival. Strong monsters appeared from the depths of the dungeon that Lee Ki-yeon had never seen before. He just had time to think that he had made a huge mistake by coming here. Lee Ki-yeon offered to run from here, but an iron gate fell heavily behind him, making escape impossible. Jung Ji-ho ordered not to retreat, because together they are quite capable of winning. Lee Ki-yeon looked at the parameters of the monsters. They are evil evolved spirits. They act on instinct, but they are too big for Park Deok-koo alone to contain them. Kim Hyun-sung assured them that they would be fine, and everyone began to prepare for battle with determination. Jung Ji-ho decided to go first and charged at the monsters. Lee Ki-yeon understood that he had to conserve his mana until the last. Kim Hyun-sung suddenly jumped and struck Jung Jae-ho with his sword. He said he wanted to check how strong he was. Jung Ji-ho shot back and joked that Kim Hyun-sung was too cautious. Kim Hyun-sung killed several monsters. Even Jung Ji-ho looked surprised. Lee Ki-yeon decided that it was not in vain that he relied on him and tested Park Deok-koo's stability. Park Deok-koo successfully fought the monster, while Jung Ha-young summoned her magic and conjured a blast of wind, killing the monster with one blow. Lee Ki-yeon realized that they really had a chance and enthusiastically said that Jung Ha-young saved him. He also asked not to help Jung Ji-ho's team under any circumstances. Jung Ji-ho's group begged for help, but Jung Ha-young pretended that she needed to restore her mana. The monsters were attacking Yoo Seok-woo and another boy, and Lee Ki-yeon was happy that the monsters were on their side today. Jung Ji-ho's group continued to ask for help, and Lee Ki-yeon only shouted at them that they were good and would make it, that they should hold on for the sake of their relatives on Earth. According to Lee Ki-yeon, every fifth person is garbage, and today it is him. Lee Ki-yeon conjured a fireball at the monsters. Everyone was happy, but this spell only irritated the monsters more. Lee Ki-yeon only clothed the monsters in what he thought were magnificent fire armors, thus creating a new, burning evil spirit. He bitterly thinks that justice will win after all. While Jung Ji-ho's team looked at the monsters in horror, Lee Ki-yeon pretended to be very sorry. Meanwhile, others demanded to sit down and put out the flames as quickly as possible. Lee Ki-yeon, of course, expected Jung Jae-ho to pull his trump card out of his sleeve and show his true nature. But he only ordered his men back into formation and personally appealed to Yoo Seok-woo to prevent him from running away. The monster grabbed one of Jung Jae-ho's men, and Park Deok-koo asked Lee Ki-young if they should really help him. Lee Ki-young replied that it was too dangerous now. The monster brutally bites off the boy's head, and Lee Ki-yeon enthusiastically thinks that if Jung Jae-ho had intervened, he would have saved him. For Lee Ki-yeon, things turned out much better than he expected. Jung Ha-young activated the water lightning and finally extinguished the flames on the monsters. Lee Ki-yeon thanked her profusely, and the surviving boy from the team, Jung Jae-ho, yelled at Lee Ki-yeon that he was a bastard. Everyone kept their eyes on them, and Lee Ki-yeon noticed the dangerous look on Jung Ha-young's face and realized that something had to be done immediately so that she would finally go mad and finally start killing. Lee Ki-yeon expertly provoked the boy, and he, unable to stand it, punched him in the face. Park Deok-koo and Jung Ha-young immediately ran up to Lee Ki-yeon, asking if he was okay while threatening the boy. Lee Ki-yeon asked them to calm down and feigned deep remorse, saying that it was really his fault. Meanwhile, Jung Jae-ho stopped his man and assured him that prolonging the conflict would not lead to anything. Jung Jae-ho leaned over and whispered that with the death of one of them, this game was over. However, first, you need to clear the dungeon. Afterwards, Jung Jae-ho apologized to Lee Ki-yeon for his man. The boy did not calm down. He shouted that Lee Ki-yeon was only deceiving everyone. Lee Ki-yeon fell prostrate with his head on the ground and lamented that if only he had been a little stronger, everything would have worked out. The filmed scene of incredible self-deprecation touched everyone. Everyone looked at Lee Ki-yeon with sympathy. He manipulated the words that he should die, and everyone immediately rushed to stop him. Jung Jae-ho said that he already ordered to stop. That's enough. Yoo Seok-woo also thought that Lee Ki-yeon was a cunning fox and had already introduced a bride to him in the same way, so it is better not to contact him. Everyone around stood ready to defend Lee Ki-yeon, and the boy couldn't understand why only he looked like a heathen right now because Lee Ki-yeon was 100% mocking him. Jung Jae-ho looked at Lee Ki-yeon with a completely different look. He thought he was going to kill Lee Ki-yeon, but now he really wants to lure such a genius to his side. Yoo Seok-woo came up asking if Lee Ki-yeon is happy that even when he is guilty, everyone still defends him. Lee Ki-yeon looked at Yoo Seok-woo with such a look that he immediately ran away. Lee Ki-yeon spat out a bloody tooth. Kim Hyun-sung came up to him and asked if everything was okay. Lee Ki-yeon is hurt, but he's happy that Kim Hyun-sung cares for him. Jung Ha-young picked up the broken tooth from the floor and was filled with rage. She decided that she would definitely kill the one who did this to her lover. Lee Ki-yeon realized that she was completely out of control. Jung Ha-young whined and lamented that that bad boy was insulting Lee Ki-yeon, and she herself thought that she would definitely take revenge on him, that she should punish him for insulting her lover. Lee Ki-yeon thought that if Jung Ha-young used magic now, then he had asked for a hit in vain. They brought the ogres, so now it's Jung Jae-ho's men's turn to attack. Yoo Seok-woo glanced nervously at Jung Ha-young and Lee Ki-yeon, and Lee Ki-yeon realized that it would be very easy to provoke Yoo Seok-woo. To do this, Lee Ki-yeon hugged Jung Ha-young, saying that he was in pain. Suddenly, Jung Ha-young lifted Lee Ki-yeon into the air and held him in the air in love. Lee Ki-yeon is shocked. He realized that he unexpectedly got the role of the heroine, but the goal was still achieved. Yoo Seok-woo was gnawing on his own handkerchief and trembling with envy. Lee Ki-yeon kept waiting for him to hit him. Yoo Seok-woo offered to help Jung Ha-young, but she coldly refused. Yoo Seok-woo was only seconds away from being hit, but a new group of monsters appeared in front of him, and everyone had to go into combat readiness. Lee Ki-yeon sent Jung Ha-young ahead while he thought of a plan himself. If he provokes Yoo Seok-woo to strike now, then Park Deok-koo can stop the next attack and Jung Ha-young will heal the wounds. Thinking that it's time to make Yoo Seok-woo a thief, Lee Ki-yeon walked up to him and asked him with a mocking face if he was jealous. Yoo Seok-woo snapped and hit Lee Ki-yeon with his sword. Everyone turned at the scream, horrified, and Yoo Seok-woo screamed at the top of his voice that he had finally managed to get rid of this bastard. Yoo Seok-woo was proud of himself and savored the victory. Jung Jae-ho, who wasn't going to reveal the cards, pretended not to understand what Yoo Seok-woo was talking about. He reprimanded Yu Seok-woo, and Lee Ki-yeon was happy that his plan was 100% successful. Park Dok-koo and Jung Ha-young ran to Lee Ki-young with all their legs, and he was happy that now his magic items would finally come in handy and heal him. But at that moment, the boy who had hit Lee Ki-yeon earlier also broke free and, shouting that it was long overdue, stabbed Lee Ki-yeon in the back with a terrible knife. When Jung Ha-young saw this, she just went crazy. She screamed and rushed towards Lee Ki-yeon while the two attackers happily shook hands behind them. Jung Ji-ho shouted at the boys and charged at them with his sword, ready to cut them down on the spot, but was stopped by Kim Hyun-sung. Kim Hyun-sung asked Park Dae-koo and Jung Ha-young to take care of Lee Ki-young while he deals with Jung Ji-ho. The boy offered Yu Seok-woo to run away while there was a chance, but Yu Seok-woo refused. Yu Seok-woo wanted to finish off Lee Ki-yeon himself and was left alone. Park Dae-koo and Jung Ha-young cried over Lee Ki-yeon's body and begged him not to die even though he was still alive. Park Dae-koo stopped panicking first and asked Jung Ha-young to use the healing ring. Not the first time, but she heard the request and healed Lee Ki-yeon. He even had a tooth grow back. Yu Seok-woo ran towards Lee Ki-yeon, but Park Dae-koo stopped him with one punch to the jaw. The monsters were closing in on them again, and Lee Ki-yeon activated his mana shield to protect himself. Park Dae-koo noticed that Jung Ha-young had disappeared and regretted not taking care of her. Lee Ki-yeon decided that she had gone after the second attacker, and now was a good time to disappear. Lee Ki-yeon calmed Park Dae-koo, who was already crying because he didn't have time to protect everyone, and decided that the situation wasn't that bad after all. The second attacker ran as fast as he could and thought Yu Seok-woo was a fool. Revenge is nice, but life is more expensive. And that Jung Ji-ho turned out to be a heartless beast, almost killing his own. Suddenly, there was a whistling wind and the boy fell to the floor, unable to feel his legs. Jung Ha-young cut them off with magic, saying that she didn't have time. She would have to kill the boy quickly. Jung Ha-young opened the boy's mouth and created a small blast of wind, knocking out all of his teeth. Jung Ha-young said that there was blood everywhere, and Lee Ki-yeon wouldn't like it, even though he was suffering from a stroke. Jung Ha-young said that she will punish the boy one more time, and he is ready to be punished, just to survive. But Jung Ha-young just killed him on the spot. The bound Yu Seok-woo shouted that his comrades would not let it go so easily, and would definitely take revenge for him. Lee Ki-yeon mockingly said that his comrades had already left Yu Seok-woo alone. Yu Seok-woo couldn't believe that Jung Ji-ho left him and ran away. But Lee Ki-yeon proved it to him, and mocked him for what a loser even Jung Ha-young didn't get. Lee Ki-yeon said that now Yu Seok-woo is completely in his power, so only Lee Ki-yeon can decide whether he should live or not. Park Dae-koo is shocked, but Lee Ki-yeon just tells him to turn away if he doesn't want to watch. Yu Seok-woo yelled that Lee Ki-yeon was out of the woods, and Lee Ki-yeon said that it would be nice to kill at least once with his own hands instead of using others. Lee Ki-yeon took his spear and killed Yu Seok-woo with one blow. He thought that he had already killed more than once, and now, as before, it was a simple necessity. Park Dae-koo is upset, but accepts the act. From this murder, the window of a new specialization opened for Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Ki-yeon thought that this world is ruthless if he gains experience even from killing people. Lee Ki-yeon turned to Park Dae-koo and with a serious expression on his face almost ordered him not to die under any circumstances. Park Dae-koo told Lee Ki-yeon that he should choose the coolest specialization, but the problem is that they are all good, and Lee Ki-yeon wants to consult with Kim Hyun-sung. Unexpectedly, Park Dae-koo and Lee Ki-yeon are overtaken by a tearful Jung Ha-young. She threw herself into Lee Ki-yeon's arms and he asked if she was okay, not hurt anywhere. Park Dae-koo asked Jung Ha-young where she was going, and Jung Ha-young couldn't answer properly, so Lee Ki-yeon decided to help her with the right direction. Jung Ha-young said that she was very angry at the person who hit Lee Ki-yeon, so she couldn't say it out loud, but Park Dae-koo understood what Jung Ha-young meant. Jung Ha-young continued to cry and say that she was very sorry. Park Dae-koo couldn't calm her down, so Lee Ki-yeon had to do it, and Jung Ha-young's words instantly made her smile. At that moment, they were found by Kim Hyun-sung, covered in blood. He is glad that everyone is safe. Lee Ki-yeon decided that Jung Ji-ho was nowhere near standing next to Kim Hyun-sung. Kim Hyun-sung asked what happened to the other members of Jung Ji-ho's squad, and Lee Ki-yeon said that he killed them all. Kim Hyun-sung breathed a sigh of relief as they were all enemies. Kim Hyun-sung noted that no one would criticize Lee Ki-yong for such a decision. There will be many enemies ahead, and you need to be able to stand up for yourself. Kim Hyun-sung asked how Lee Ki-yeon was hurt, and Lee Ki-yeon replied that everything was fine, but if it wasn't for the artifacts from Kim Hyun-sung, he would have died by now, and thanked them again. Everyone decided to break camp and rest. Lee Ki-yeon is satisfied. He felt safe next to Kim Hyun-sung and believed that they could handle anything together. Already at the bonfire, Lee Ki-yeon caught the attention of Kim Hyun-sung. Lee Ki-yeon asked for advice on his new specializations, since he cannot choose for himself. Kim Hyun-sung asked what these specializations were, and Lee Ki-yeon opened the status window. As many as 5 specializations are available: Summoner, Spearmaster, Dark Mage, Alchemist, and Pyromaniac. Lee Ki-yeon was glad that this time all specializations were rare, and that he didn't get something like Thief. He read the descriptions of each specialization in turn, considering the pros and cons. Summoner likes Lee Ki-yeon, he's not very good with a spear. Dark Mage will have problems with religious cults. Alchemist looks great. And Pyromaniac has too much mana drain. Kim Hyun-sung listened carefully and also settled on the Summoner and Alchemist options. However, in a few more seconds, Kim Hyun-sung said that the best option for Lee Ki-yeon would be an Alchemist. Lee Ki-yeon thought about these words. The various potions will really be very useful, plus he won't have to fight, and in the future, he will be able to create powerful homunculi. Park Dok-koo intervened in the conversation. He didn't really understand what everyone was arguing about, because in his opinion, a Dark Mage would be perfect for Lee Ki-yeon. Between Kim Hyun-sung and Park Deok-koo, the dispute over Lee Ki-yeon's specialization started again. Jung Ha-young was delighted and kept her eyes on them. Park Dok-koo believed that the Dark Mage was created for Lee Ki-yeon, and Park Dok-koo would deal with all religious opponents on his own. Even if the character of the class is not suitable, but what an image! Kim Hyun-sung pressed with arguments, but gradually, he and Park Dok-koo simply began to shout Alchemist and Dark Mage, who is louder. Lee Ki-yeon wished for it to end. Park Dok-koo and Kim Hyun-sung couldn't come to a conclusion and asked Jung Ha-young what she thought. Jung Ha-young imagined Lee Ki-yeon in both versions and blushed at the obscene thoughts. Kim Hyun-sung pulled a trump card up his sleeve. He just happened to have a legendary artifact for an alchemist, and he is ready to give it to Lee Ki-yeon if he chooses the appropriate class. Kim Hyun-sung said he found this book in a chest among other junk. He cannot read it, as he is not an alchemist, but it is a very valuable thing. Park Dok-koo accused him of bribery. Lee Ki-yeon thought that such items do not lie so easily in chests, and therefore Kim Hyun-sung either brought much more interesting things in his backpack, or else he has access to a store. Everyone put pressure on Lee Ki-yeon, and he said that he still chose to become an alchemist, but it was by no means because of a book. Everyone was happy except Park Dok-koo. Lee Ki-yeon gained the skills of a new class, and accepted the book from the hands of Kim Hyun-sung, promising to live up to all expectations and work for the good of the unit. At night, when everyone was asleep, Lee Ki-yeon studied the book and alchemy in general. He didn't have any equipment or valuables yet, and that's a problem. A lot of money is needed. Kim Hyun-sung woke up and asked Lee Ki-yeon if he went to bed at all. Lee Ki-yeon said that the alchemist class hides many secrets that have yet to be learned, showing how hard he works. Kim Hyun-sung thinks that judging by the fact that the survival quest has not yet been completed, they have a boss battle ahead of them. Lee Ki-yeon hoped that they would find clues as to where to go next. At this time, a woman in uniform was watching them from another place and said that it seems that she has finally found those who can replace the lost warrior. As the squad made their way to the boss, Park Dok-koo and Kim Hyun-sung exchanged the most stupid jokes and enjoyed it. Lee Ka-yeon and Jung Ha-young were not funny at all. However, it lightened the atmosphere, and everyone felt calmer. At first, everyone was very worried about how to get out of here, but now everything was going as it should. Suddenly, the squad came across a giant iron door with strange symbols. This is really the way out that they were looking for, and that Kim Hyun-sung was talking about. There was an unexpected light behind the door, but it still didn't resemble a continent, more like an extension of a dungeon. A large magic circle with strange symbols is drawn on the floor. Suddenly, a new rare quest was activated for everyone at the same time. Cleared. The boss wasn't here, but there was another giant door ahead that Park Dok-koo tried to open, and his efforts were in vain. While Lee Ki-yeon was thinking about how to clear the dungeon if there is no boss in it, Kim Hyun-sung walked over to the magic circle and began to imbue it with magic. The magic circle was filled with bright light, and both quests were marked as completed. Everyone is very happy to have overcome this adventure, especially Kim Hyun-sung. The door opened in front of them by itself. The daylight dazzled their eyes, and a female voice congratulated them on the successful completion of their studies. This is the vice chairman of the Blue Guild, Lee Sang-gi. Park Dok-koo jumped up to Lee Sang-gi and asked what responsible for the dungeon means. Was it Lee Sang-gi who locked them there? But it turned out to be untrue. Suniva is an imperial guild created under the patronage of the goddess Benagor, and Lee Sang-gi is in charge of training this season. They too were once called to this world and had to undergo a test. The reason for the call has not yet been clarified. From the moment the training dungeon is cleared, Lee Sang-gi and the other managers have to accompany the newcomers on the way out, as well as save the people in the camp. The detachment will also be helped to adapt to new circumstances and will be provided with housing. Lee Ki-yeon asked if the door would always be open, and Lee Sang-gi said only 3 days since the sweep. They also asked everyone to surrender their weapons, promising to explain everything in the camp. Lee Ki-yeon called up Lee Sang-gi's status window and saw that almost all of her stats were maxed out. Lee Ki-yeon understood that if this woman wanted to kill them, they would have been dead a long time ago. At the same time, he did not understand why she cared so little about the dead in the dungeons and was so worried about the 4 of them. Lee Ki-yeon was glad that the knights were already going to go rescue people. It was a bit disappointing that he didn't say goodbye to Lee Jae-hai properly, but overall, Lee Ki-yeon didn't really care about it. A wonderful landscape opened up before them. A clear sky, high towers of the city, stalls of merchants and calm, cheerful people, and a griffin was flying in the sky. Lee Sang-gi said that seeing a griffin is very rare. Park Dok-koo was already standing at the food stall. Lee Sang-gi notes that they plan to treat the winners, but now they can take whatever they want. Park Dok-koo offered the others to eat as well. Lee Ki-yeon tried to refuse, but Park Dok-koo insisted that you can't refuse free food and took another portion for Lee Ki-yeon. Kim Hyun-sung looked a little detached, as if he was thinking about something. Lee Ki-yeon called him and said that he will always rely on him, but he himself thought that he would not dare to leave them after everything that happened. Kim Hyun-sung looked a little surprised, but smiled in a moment and said that he would also rely on Lee Ki-young, Park Dae-koo, and Jung Ha-yang. The squad rides around the city in an expensive carriage with Lee Sang-gi. Lee Ki-yeon is happy that he is finally comfortable for the first time in a long time, even though he didn't expect such a reception. Lee Sang-gi told Kim Hyun-sung that they went through training very quickly. Usually, it takes about half a year, and their rate of 3 months is something, like a world record. Park Dok-koo asked if there were other dungeons, and Lee Sang-gi replied that there were several, her alliance overseeing 3. She promised to tell all the details later. Lee Sang-gi said that it's not allowed to ask at all, but she's very curious how they went through the dungeon so quickly, as a small group. Kim Hyun-sung replied that there were many factors, but the main thing was that everyone did their own thing. Meanwhile, Lee Ki-yeon looked at the other new arrivals and understood why they were treated so kindly. The other survivors started shouting, creating problems, and the 4 of them are very promising. The carriage stopped, they arrived at the base. Lee Ki-yeon could not believe his eyes. In front of them was a real gigantic palace that was shining in the sunlight. A crowd of people was already waiting for them inside, who joyfully welcomed the new heroes, saluting them. All 4 are in deep shock. They did not expect to see this. The interior is even more luxurious than the exterior, too much so. Lee Ki-yeon noticed the smug aristocrats hiding upstairs discussing the new heroes. Everyone was enjoying the meal, and Lee Ki-yeon kept thinking about the ostentatious luxury and the fact that the vice chairman has to do the dirty work. However, he did not have enough evidence yet. Lee Sang-gi asked the names of the new heroes, and everyone took turns saying not only their names, but also their classes. When it was Lee Ki-yeon's turn, his alchemist Lee Sang-gi reacted with disappointment. Lee Ki-yeon didn't understand why Lee Sang-gi made such a face and hoped that Kim Hyun-sung hadn't deceived him about the importance of the class and wasn't going to turn him into a potion factory. Park Dok-koo praised the food. Kim Hyun-sung asked the question directly. The reason why everyone is so friendly is the need for the skills of the new heroes. Lee Sang-gi is delighted that the characters understood everything immediately. Lee Sang-gi stated that she wanted to recruit them all into this guild. Of course, some issues will have to be discussed, but they will get excellent conditions. Kim Hyun-sung wanted to hear the details first. Lee Sang-gi began to tell the story of the country called Continent, and Lee Ki-yeon could not believe that Kim Hyun-sung was really thinking about entering, because everything here is dust in the eyes. Even the gold is not real. Kim Hyun-sung nodded suspiciously at everything Lee Sang-gi said, and Lee Ki-yeon searched for the reason why Kim Hyun-sung was so attracted to them. Perhaps he was a member of Sineva in a past life. Lee Ki-yeon thought that no matter what the reasons were, he would never share what belonged to him with others. No one will take away Lee Ki-yeon's men. He began to think of a plan. Lee Sang-gi revealed that the continent had not only the Holy Empire, but also other great countries such as the Republic and the United Kingdom. They work together to maintain balance. There are other countries, but these three are the main ones. In addition to humans, there are also other races: elves, dragons, and orangutans. Also, all guilds have autonomous rights and are outside the power of the empire. The price for this autonomy was the obligation to support countries during wartime with power and resources. Also, guilds are not allowed to change power, and therefore each country is protected by large guilds. Trials and dungeons are opened annually. The land where they were is currently under the control of foreigners, and they decide whose turn it is to arrange training. As soon as training is completed, the guild in charge has the right to be the first to meet the newcomers and give them a tour. This is exactly what happened to the four heroes. Park Dok-koo asked if that meant they now belong to the sun. Lee Sang-gi said that Sineva only wants to recruit them, hire them for a certain rate, but let the heroes decide. Lee Ki-yeon listened to Lee Sang-gi and thought she was too straightforward. He wouldn't tell half the information he got. Lee Ki-yeon doubted that Lee Sang-gi was lying, but she could be a puppet. The more Lee Ki-yeon listened, the more confident he became that Sineva was in a bad situation. He asked Lee Sang-gi what role Sineva played in the Holy Empire. Lee Sang-gi frowned and said that the guild used to be the face of the empire, but now they are faced with a very difficult situation, and things are not going well. Lee Ki-yeon understood that Sineva hoped to revive the former glory with the help of outstanding newcomers, which is why they are so kind to them and spent on this lavish reception. Lee Ki-yeon thought that they were not simpletons and were not going to carry the guild on their own shoulders. He mentally signaled to Kim Hyun-sung that it was time to leave. Kim Hyun-sung suddenly said that he likes everything. He could not give an answer now, but as soon as he heard all the terms consulted with others, he would quickly come to an agreement. Lee Ki-yeon is desperate. He understood the reason why Kim Hyun-sung was going to agree. However, he suggested that Kim Hyun-sung was actually planning to get some benefit out of this guild. Lee Ki-yeon suggested that in the past, Kim Hyun-sung was almost the head of the guild and had a lot of influence. He didn't know if Kim Hyun-sung's goal was to take over the world, but there was a chance that he missed the old guild. This is just a guess, but Lee Ki-yeon saw no other adequate reason why Kim Hyun-sung would agree to join Sineva. Moreover, Kim Hyun-sung acted as if he knew Lee Sang-gi. Lee Sang-gi suggested that the conversation be postponed until tomorrow, and now everyone should go rest. Lee Ki-yeon still couldn't stop thinking about Kim Hyun-sung and his unexpected decisions. Lee Sang-gi gave them the room keys and wished them a pleasant rest. Lee Ki-yeon gave her a sweet smile, trying to make a good impression. He offered to disperse and rest, but everyone was waiting for something else. Everyone decided to gather in one room and discuss everything. Park Deok-koo is in awe of how big and beautiful the room is, and Lee Ki-yeon bids everyone get comfortable. Lee Ki-yeon said that he had never thought to see such a room. Park Deok-koo and Jung Ha-young are a bit confused by everything that happened. Kim Hyun-sung noted that now they will try to keep them with all their might. However, once the initial negotiations are over, they will definitely receive many offers from other guilds. Kim Hyun-sung said that it is wise to choose the best guild, but for some reason he is drawn to Sineva. Lee Ki-yeon supported Kim Hyun-sung's proposal, expecting something in the future. Park Deok-koo and Jung Ha-young only agreed with Lee Ki-yeon's decision when he said that he should listen to the conditions first. Kim Hyun-sung was a little upset by these words, but agreed that they should make the most favorable terms for themselves. Lee Ki-yeon was happy that he managed to scare Kim Hyun-sung. After this quick meeting, everyone went to their rooms, and Lee Ki-yeon decided that he had to win this negotiation. In his room, Kim Hyun-sung put his hand against the wall and memories began to wash over him. He really was the head of Sinova in a past life. Some girl in her memories begged the head of the guild to run away and save herself, because enemies would soon appear. Kim Hyun-sung chose to fight, but the girl could not stand this decision and shortened her age. Someone else shouted that Kim Hyun-sung had killed a girl, and that they all had to defend an empire that was killing its own citizens. The masked men took over the guild and insisted that all humans must be destroyed. Before Kim Hyun-sung's eyes, his entire guild cut their own throats. He emerged from his memories and promised that this time he would definitely protect everyone, because now everything is different. Lee Ki-yeon woke up in the morning, got dressed, and heard someone standing at his door. It turned out to be Jong Ha-young, who didn't even hide and said that she was waiting for Lee Ki-yeon to go with him to the interview. The guild official summoned Kim Hyun-sung first. Everyone else wished him luck. Lee Ki-yeon regretted that they were not going as a whole group, but each separately. Lee Ki-yeon heard the applause from outside the door and decided that this was not just an interview, but a real test. Jung Ha-young was next, and Lee Ki-young was not liking the situation. The third was called Park Dok-koo. Lee Ki-yeon felt naked. It seemed to him that now everyone would reveal that he was a real burden in the group and that he was of no use. Finally, it was Lee Ki-yeon's turn. To his surprise, a whole commission of guild people was sitting inside. He was in front of them, as if he was on an exam or an interrogation. The chairman of the commission asked about the specialization of Lee Ki-yeon and emphasized that an alchemist is not the best option. Lee Ki-yeon was asked to name his stats, and when he heard that his magic was 8, the chairman started to laugh. Lee Ki-yeon tried to prove that he has a high intelligence instead, but he was not even tested, immediately offering contract terms that are even quite favorable and can be revised for the better. Suddenly, Commander Lee Seok-ho said that he agreed only if all 4 joined, because everyone should have already understood that this alchemist alone is just a burden and worthless. Lee Ki-yeon became irritated and understood that they wanted to make him a laughingstock. He looked through the windows of other states and realized that no one could discover his hidden abilities. Lee Ki-yeon asked if that was all the conditions. Lee Sang-gi also listed others who were very generous. They tried to stop her because it was too much, but Lee Sang-gi believed in Lee Ki-yeon's potential. Lee Ki-yeon realized that Lee Sang-gi is a beautiful woman, but the problem lies with the others sitting next to her. Someone from the audience asked if this is not a normal situation when members of a group disagree and demand a fee reduction. Lee Ki-yeon couldn't help but agree, even partially, with those words. Under normal circumstances, it is normal for group members to split up for various reasons. However, their group is somewhat unique. They are too attached to each other, you can even say best friends, and it is simply impossible to imagine that they will part ways. Lee Ki-yeon told the commission that the terms sounded very attractive, to which the commission noted that if he told the others that he agreed, Lee Ki-yeon would even be given a small bonus. Lee Ki-yeon promised to think about it. The commission is shocked by these words. Lee Ki-yeon said that he needed time anyway. The commission demanded to hear the answer as soon as possible because the demonstration week is coming to an end. There were whispers behind that it would be a shame to give Lee Ki-yeon to another guild, and that a good alchemist wouldn't hurt them. Lee Ki-yeon realized that soon all the other guilds would contact them themselves. Lee Sang-gi stopped Lee Ki-yeon and suggested that he read the original contract of Sinua so that he could make a decision more easily. Lee Ki-yeon thanked him, but he wasn't even going to read it. Lee Ki-yeon understood that these were very favorable conditions, especially for newcomers, and therefore it made sense for the guild to invest in such a way. However, he hated being an extra member of the group, so he didn't want to decide so easily. Park Dok-koo, Jung Ha-young, and Kim Hyun-sung were already waiting for Lee Ki-yeon outside the door. They said that everyone was just nice to them, but Lee Ki-yeon thought things were a little different in his case. Lee Ki-yeon understood that the only problem was Kim Hyun-sung, who was too easy to agree and too impatient. On the other hand, Lee Ki-yeon agrees that joining Blue is the best decision. Lee Ki-yeon said that they have to wait a little longer with the answer. Kim Hyun-sung asked if there was anything he didn't like, but Lee Ki-yeon simply offered to inflate his price a little more. And the way to do it is demonstrations. Sinova has already used the right of first meeting. Now they are obliged to allow the heroes to demonstrate their skills to other guilds. Park Dok-koo and Jung Ha-young thought that Lee Ki-yeon wanted to leave them here and go to another guild, But Lee Ki-yeon assured them that this was not the case. They all wanted to go through this difficult path together. Lee Ki-yeon suggested that everyone prepare for the demonstration, but Jung Ha-young wanted to go for a walk and flatly refused to do anything without it. Lee Ki-yeon thought that she was fussy a lot lately. Lee Ki-yeon agreed, but said that they would all go together. Park Deok-koo tried to say that he was too busy trying to set up Lee Ki-yeon and Jung Ha-young, but Lee Ki-yeon needed it. Lee Ki-yeon notices that everyone is preparing hard. Does Jung Ha-young really want to drop everything and go for a walk? Unfortunately for him, Jung Ha-young confirmed that she doesn't care about anything but Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Ki-yeon realized that Jung Ha-young had been paying too little attention lately, and it made her feel unbalanced again. Lee Ki-yeon couldn't let that happen before the big performance. A few days later, Lee Ki-yeon and Park Deok-koo were sad in their room. Park Deok-koo was looking at a brochure and wanted to visit a famous restaurant. Park Deok-koo remarked that he never expected to become so famous in life. Lee Ki-yeon warmed to this sentiment and told Park Deok-koo that with due diligence, this fame will only grow. Park Deok-koo was happy, but then suddenly became sad. Park Deok-koo said that after Lee Ki-yeon said that they would not see each other for a while, Jung Ha-young locked herself in her own room and cried non-stop. Lee Ki-yeon understood that it was necessary. Park Deok-koo continued to insist that it was too cruel, but Lee Ki-yeon already asked him not to worry about it, as he knows Jung Ha-young better. Lee Ki-yeon decided that in addition to the incredible Kim Hyun-sung, the future archmage with the potential of legendary rank, Jung Ha-young, could significantly increase the squad's price. Jung Ha-young's magic has been steadily growing because she has a high potential, and also a few days ago she received her second specialization, an elemental mage. But Jung Ha-young can grow at a faster rate, and for this, Lee Ki-yeon used the whip and sweets method. If Jung Ha-young showed progress, he would reward her, if not, he would become cold. That's why he set Jung Ha-young such conditions. As expected, Jung Ha-young instantly became more like a very diligent student to receive her reward. Lee Ki-yeon was satisfied, thus killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Lee Ki-yeon said that it's been 3 days, and he feels a little sorry for Jung Ha-young, but the Sunniva board of directors and a bunch of scouts from other guilds will meet soon, so Jung Ha-young should study well. Park Deok-koo finally understood and said that such a perfect couple still needs to be found. Lee Ki-yeon thought that if it weren't for Park Deok-koo's actions, the relationship with Jung Ha-young could have ended up being brother-sister. According to Lee Ki-yeon, if they're key players, Kim Hyun-sung and Jung Ha-young show their skills well, the price of the squad could soar 2, 3, or even 5 times. Finally, the day of the demonstrations arrived. Everything happened like a coliseum and very ceremoniously. The team was solemnly asked to prepare for the exit. Lee Ki-yeon thought that compared to studying here, it was like they were in a different game, luxury and safety everywhere. Although he had been annoyed by the commission at the beginning, Lee Ki-yeon now felt calm. Lee Ki-yeon looked around the crowd waiting for them and regretted that Lee Jae-hai was not among them. Together, they would bring the commission to its knees in a matter of minutes. Lee Sang-gi hosted the event, she gave a keynote speech, and the characters were watched with interest by a certain woman, as well as the ruling family. Lee Sang-gi's partner said more emotionally that this year, the newcomers managed to double the rate of passing the training, and that is why the attention of many is already fixed on them. The crowd gave the heroes a standing ovation while Lee Ki-yeon looked for Jung Ha-young, who was a bit lost. However, as soon as she saw her beloved, the girl began to shine. Jung Ha-young tried hard and looked exhausted. Lee Ki-yeon desperately wondered if he had overdone it, because if Jung Ha-young didn't have the strength, she wouldn't perform well. Jung Ha-young, on the other hand, thought that she should do everything to make Lee Ki-yeon happy. The host addressed Jung Ha-young several times, who thought that she didn't want to lose Lee Ki-yeon right now. Suddenly, an earthquake started, and Lee Ki-yeon mentally begged Jung Ha-young to pull himself together. Jung Ha-young raised her wand and summoned magic of incredible power. She conjured an explosion element, and a giant meteor fell from the sky onto the stage, forcing everyone to close their ears. Everyone is shocked by such strength, and Jung Ha-young happily turned to Lee Ki-yeon and waited for him to praise her. Lee Ki-yeon had no choice but to stand up and start shouting that his beloved is incredible. The crowd heard Lee Ki-yeon's words and started roaring, offering Jung Ha-young incredible offers and contracts. She just ran to Lee Ki-yeon. Everything else didn't bother Jung Ha-young. People continued to go crazy, Even the royal family demanded to get all the information about this girl immediately. Li Qiyan wondered what to give Zheng Haiyang for such a display, then looked at her status window. Li Qiyan is shocked, because in just 1 week, Zheng Haiyang has increased her mana by 10 points. The guild asked everyone to remain calm and return to their seats, but they had no control over the situation. Zheng Haiyang assured Li Qiyan that it was not difficult for her at all and asked for a gift. Li Qiyan kept thinking that Zheng Haiyang's inability to control her behavior and emotions in front of others was quite a spectacle. Now everyone knew what kind of relationship they had. Li Qiyan told Zheng Haiyang that he loved her and created the image of 2 hearts tied together that could never be separated from each other. The members of the Sinua Commission are horrified, realizing that they will now be unable to recruit Zheng Haiyang separately from Li Qiyan, putting them at a disadvantage. The swordsman, whom everyone had been waiting for a long time, Kim Hyun-sung, was called next for the demonstration. The team wished Kim Hyun-sung the best of luck, and Li Qiyan thought he was incredibly attractive. The essence of the demonstration was a one-on-one duel with an experienced swordsman. Li Qiyan looked that overall the swordsman's stats are higher than Kim Hyun-sung's. It's just a rookie's rating. The presenter barely had time to announce the start, when no less than 3 blows were already exchanged on the stage. The swordsman was surprised by how Kim Hyun-sung was calmly pressing him. Li Qiyan watched how well Kim Hyun-sung held his own in the match, making his opponent sweat and mentally praised him. Li Qiyan saw Kim Hyun-sung fight at full strength for the first time. Li Qiyan thought that even though he didn't understand anything about swordsmanship, it seemed to him that Kim Hyun-sung didn't have a decisive advantage. But this is his second attempt in this world. If Kim Hyun-sung showed everything he has, he would have won a long time ago, but this way, people would start to suspect something. Therefore, Kim Hyun-sung only gave a decent fight back, nothing more. However, people who knew how to wield a sword easily understood that there was a whole treasure in front of them. Li Qiyan laughed because he knew that everyone thought Zheng Haiyang was the only gem of the team. Meanwhile, Kim Hyun-sung knocked the sword out of his opponent's hands and, entering into a rage, threw away his own sword and began to beat him with his fists. The opponent unexpectedly used magic, knocking Kim Hyun-sung away. Everyone looked at the scene in horror, and the swordsman ran up to Kim Hyun-sung apologetically. Kim Hyun-sung said that everything is fine. He himself is to blame for this situation. Li Qiyan is delighted with Kim Hyun-sung's demonstration. He showed his strengths, such as agility and endurance, but did not reveal all his trump cards. The shield-bearer, Park Dok-koo, was summoned to the 3rd demonstration. Park Dok-koo was a bit nervous, but Li Qiyan assured him that his stamina had grown a lot and everything would be fine. The essence of this demonstration is a test of endurance. If Park Dok-koo manages to withstand all the damage the opponent will inflict within 3 minutes, the challenge will be considered a success. The monster bound to the arena hit Park Deok-koo with all his might, but he only smiled. At the end of the test, Park Dok-koo gave the monster a high five for a great fight, and finally, Li Qiyan was called to the stage. Everyone wished him luck. Li Qiyan understood that this was the first time he would be showing off his alchemist skills, so there was no point in freaking out. In addition, Suniva's administration is aware of his abilities and did not even lend Li Qiyan any catalysts, citing their high cost in an attempt to overwhelm him. Li Qiyan took his staff and drew magic circles on the floor. He summoned a pillar of flame, pouring his mana into the spell. A pillar of blue flame shot into the sky. Li Qiyan realized that using alchemist skills was harder than he thought, and he was unlikely to do it again in real combat just yet, but his demonstration counted. Suniva asked everyone to stay in their seats and do everything according to the procedure, but the crowd was already running towards the fore, offering them various offers from various guilds. Conventional bidding began. Everyone for some reason offered money to Li Qiyan, considering him a hidden weapon. 2, 3, 4, 6,000 salary. The crowd was going crazy, and Li Qiyan was enjoying it and looking at the Suniva Commission as real losers. However, they already understood it themselves. Suddenly, the same unknown woman who had been watching the foursome jumped out in front of them, and in a jump she kicked Li Qiyan in the chest with her knee. The woman called Li Qiyan a tiny cutie and suggested a little dialogue between just the two of them. Li Qiyan tried to understand who this woman was, Kim Hyun-sung stood nearby with a very puzzled expression, and Lee Ki-yeon summoned the woman's status window. Cha Hee-ra turned out to be the mercenary queen with a legendary strength of 97 points. Lee Ki-yeon doesn't like things that are out of his control, while Cha Hee-ra apologized for the suddenness because she saw the goal and stopped controlling herself. Cha Hee-ra turned out to be the head of the Red Mercenary Guild, one of the three most important in the Holy Empire. Lee Ki-yeon thought that it was for the sake of such an important young lady that he was getting close to Jung Ha-young. Lee Ki-yeon was about to shake Cha Hee-ra's hand, but Jung Ha-young tried to stop him, who really didn't like the woman's strange clothes and the fact that she almost killed Lee Ki-yeon. Cha Hee-ra tried to say hello to Jung Ha-young as well, but she immediately hid behind Lee Ki-yeon. He apologized and said that Jung Ha-young is a little afraid of strangers. Cha Hee-ra just took it and offered them 2 million each, with an annual salary of 500,000. Lee Ki-yeon thought to agree, but saw Kim Hyun-sung's eyes, which were very clearly against it. Cha Hee-ra saw that Lee Ki-yeon was interested in the monetary terms, so she told more about the guild. From the beginning, Red Mercenaries focused on melee fighters, but everything has changed. Cha Hee-ra said that an alchemist can replace a healer, and it's very attractive, and Lee Ki-yeon mentally laughed at the Sinova Commission again. However, Cha Hee-ru was only interested in magicians. There are too many fighters in the guild. Lee Ki-yeon said that it was a very attractive offer, and Park Deok-koo and Kim Hyun-sung immediately started looking horrified. However, Cha Hee-ra did not hear the sincerity in Lee Ki-yeon's words. Lee Ki-yeon continued, "The offer is indeed very attractive, but they have become very attached to each other in the dungeons, so it's all or none." Everyone else instantly relaxed. Cha Hee-ra noted that Lee Ki-yeon sounded like he was interested, but then just changed his mind. She didn't think he was capable of that. Cha Hee-ra never tries to force anyone to change their decision. However, the situation is unique at the moment, so Cha Hee-ra suggested to think more. According to her, Lee Ki-yeon fits her type perfectly, and Jung Ha-young needs to be taught to control her emotions. Jung Ha-yang was mad, but Cha Hee-ra suggested that she see what would happen to her precious things if she crossed Cha Hee-ri's path and forcefully kissed Lee Ki-yeon as punishment for Jung Ha-young. Lee Ki-yeon is horrified. He realized that Jung Ha-young saw all of this, and there will definitely be consequences. He couldn't even move a finger, and that's when Jung Ha-young started screaming. Cha Hee-ra coldly tells Jung Ha-young that if she doesn't keep her bloodlust under control next time, things will be much worse. Lee Ki-yeon indignantly thought that he was not some kind of toy and did not understand why Jung Ha-young was silent. Then he saw a strange pendant around his neck, and Cha Hee-ra said it was a gift from her. Lee Ki-yeon looked to see that it was a mana pendant that raised the stat by as much as 3 points, and it was useful, even with Cha Hee-ra's behavior. He realized that he had to hide the gift from Jung Ha-young. The four of them continued to make their way through the crowd, trying to politely turn down each potential employer. Lee Ki-yeon is bored with all the pompous words around. Park Deok-koo angrily said that Cha Hee-ra was like some kind of animal. He is annoyed that she dared to cross the path of the lovely couple Lee Ki-yeon and Jung Ha-young. Kim Hyun-sung suddenly said that he thought things turned out quite well. When asked why, Park Deok-koo replied that it was just his intuition. In Lee Ki-yeon's opinion, even with the refusal to join the Red Mercenaries, the fact that they made a connection with Cha Hee-roy, one of the strongest in the country, is unbelievable. If the price for Cha Hee-ra's humiliation was a kiss on the lips, then Lee Ki-yeon could easily get away with it. On the other hand, Jung Ha-young's condition and behavior caused Lee Ki-yeon to worry. In the corridor, the squad was met by representatives of Sinova. All the panel members looked away and looked embarrassed, while Lee Ki-yeon was enjoying the sight. Lee Sang-gi suggested everyone to talk inside, because the new terms of the contract need to be discussed. Lee Ki-yeon agreed and asked Jung Ha-young to follow Kim Hyun-sung and return first. This time, the sums offered by Sinova are 5 times more than the initial amount, and also include heroic-level weapons. Lee Ki-yeon could barely contain himself from laughing right in the hall. Sineva also suggested building an alchemical laboratory, allocating a share of resources from dungeons, and the possibility of free blacksmith visits. Lee Ki-yeon is disappointed that this is all. Lee Sang-gi saw that Lee Ki-yeon was unhappy and suggested that she create her own independent squad instead of fully integrating into the guild. The commander nearby was shocked by these words. Lee Sang-gi continued to speak, increasing the unit's independence, and gradually reached what Li Qiyan had been waiting for. He would be appointed the head of this unit. At that moment, Commander Lee Seok-ho stood up. Lee Seok. Ho used blood magic to prevent Li Qiyan from breathing. He screamed menacingly that Li Qiyan is just a snitch who dares to lead Blue by the nose. Everyone begged Lee Seok-ho to calm down, but he didn't listen. Li Qiyan looks at Lee Seok-ho and realizes that this is the administrative commander that Li Qiyan will become equal to. Li Qiyan decided it was time to beat the old commission members with his weapon. The other commission members directly ordered Lee Seok-ho to stop. Sunniva would be in big trouble if the other guilds found out. Lee Seok-ho remarked that it wasn't a problem. He would do it quietly. Li Qiyan smiled and suggested that Lee Seok-ho try to kill him if he could. Lee Seok-ho laughed at the words, but Li Qiyan added that his girlfriend, Cha Hee-ra, would not leave it at that. If Cha Hee-ra had heard this, she would have laughed out loud, but Lee Seok-ho was impressed by these words. Lee Seok-ho could not believe what he was hearing, and Li Qiyan was able to breathe again. Li Qiyan continued to act. He said that he and Cha Hee-ra have a special relationship, and she even left him a gift. Lee Seok-ho shouted that this was absurd and impossible. Li Qiyan asked if everyone saw the scene between him and Cha Hee-ra recently. This is a direct confirmation that their relationship is special. Lee Seok-ho, meanwhile, demanded a clear definition of their relationship. Li Qiyan smiled and said that age is clearly not in the commander's favor. Such knowledge is not for his ears. And the fact that Sunniva used force against the newcomer will cause quite a stir in the country. Lee Seok-ho was shaking with rage, and Lee Sang-gai begged him to calm down. Li Qiyan understood that now Sunniva will play along with him, because he has leverage over them. Li Qiyan suddenly remarked that it was just a rumor. But isn't there anyone important in the guild right now? Li Sang-gi froze and asked in a dead voice what Li Qiyan meant. Li Qiyan believed that the old men on the verge of derangement, the vice-chairman who takes on all the work, and the non-appearance at the demonstration showed that he was really gone. Heads of the Sunniva Guild. Li Sang-gi asked if anyone had given this information to Li Qiyan. Li Qiyan was glad that he had guessed right, and therefore, the place of guild head would still belong to Kim Hyun-sung. Li Qiyan replied that given his connection with Cha Hee-ra, it would be strange not to know that, and he thought to himself that he should just let the son tell everything on his own. Li Sang-gi promised details after the introduction, but assured that the guild head was alive. Lee Seok-ho shouted again that Li Qiyan dared to disrespect not only the mercenary queen, but also their leader. Lee Seok-ho demanded that Li Qiyan know his place and threw dirt on him, and Li Qiyan understood that Lee Seok-ho was not really interested in the guild, only his own status. Li Qiyan coldly said that he didn't care about the details, and he didn't think that Lee Seok-ho could express himself like that given the state of the guild, because he could just as easily throw away the hopes of a successful negotiation. Lee Seok-ho continued to shout that Li Qiyan was just trying to take advantage of Sun. Li Qiyan believed that only Lee Seok-ho was looking for an advantage, and he was trying to pick up the pieces of Kim Hyun-sung's rule. Li Qiyan loomed over Lee Seok-ho and said that he didn't come here to fight, but to talk. Such attitude towards one's own saviors is simply unheard of. However, maybe Lee Seok-ho is already too old? Lee Seok-ho reacted to the provocation and tried to hit Li Qiyan, who only laughed. If Lee Seok-ho wanted to show that Sunniva had been soaked in rot for a long time, he did a great job. Lee Seok-ho continued to scream and grabbed Li Qiyan by his clothes. He remarked that he had no right to act like he knew everything, because Li Qiyan didn't know anything about him. Lee Seok-ho blew. Lee Sang-gi ran up to them and tried to stop this absurdity, but Lee Seok-ho didn't even hear her. Li Qiyan saw that Lee Seok-ho had no respect even for his own vice-chairman, and he lost his sense of reality. Li Qiyan said that he understood Lee Seok-ho's dislike for him. He really did, but he should have been more reserved. Even if it's a jungle deal, it's gone too far. Lee Seok-ho became enraged and wanted to strangle Li Qiyan with his own hand, but Lee Sang-gi reached out to him with an icy face. She gave Lee Seok-ho one last warning to stop. Li Qiyan thought he was seeing Lee Sang-gi show his strong side for the first time. For a leader, Lee Sang-gi has too many inappropriate traits, but at least she has a conscience and thinks clearly. Lee Seok-ho blurted out that Li Qiyan would still regret joining Sunniva, and Lee Sang-gi offered her sincere apologies on behalf of the entire guild. Lee Ki-yeon asked if there was a reason for such aggressive behavior. Lee Sang-gi replied that the longer the head is out of office, the more nervous all the other guild members become. Lee Ki-yong, on the other hand, thought that everyone, on the contrary, was happy about the absence of a head, being able to do whatever they wanted. However, he noted that Lee Sang-gi continues to stand up for his people in any case. Lee Ki-yong said that despite everything, he is not against signing the contract, but with all the conditions that were announced today. Lee Ki-yeon needs the status of commander, and Lee Sang-gi assures him that everything will be done soon. Lee Ki-yong realized that there was no guarantee that they would not try to harm him. Because of this, he urgently needs to gain influence from the side and strengthen his power in this political battle. Lee Sang-gi, meanwhile, warned that crafting heroic rank items takes time, so it might take a while. Lee Ki-yeon is used to such items just appearing from Kim Hyun-sung's bag. After dealing with all the questions, Lee Ki-yeon left the meeting room. But in the end, he still played a small skit that was supposed to make Lee Sang-gi feel a little guilty. Lee Ki-yong thought with satisfaction that it was incredibly easy to manipulate people and happily went to his squad. Lee Ki-yeon remarked that he needed to meet with Cha Hee-ro. Kim Hyun-sung asked why so suddenly, and Jung Ha-young screamed in despair that Lee Ki-yeon shouldn't be doing this. Lee Ki-yeon asked Jung Ha-young to stop carrying the delusion, as he has to do it for the good of the squad. He explained to Kim Hyun-sung that Cha Hee-ra would be a good cover for them. Kim Hyun-sung is happy, but Jung Ha-young started crying and begging not to go. Lee Ki-yeon decided that he needed guidance on how to handle Jung Ha-yang and offered to talk to her. Lee Ki-yeon had just left the room and was about to start a sentence when Jung Ha-young interrupted him by asking him not to go. Lee Ki-yeon asked not to worry, but Jung Ha-young insisted that she was going crazy. Jung Ha-young shouted that Lee Ki-yeon is not listening to her at all, but should listen to the dear person. She begged Lee Ki-yeon not to go to Cha Hee-ra and started to lose control in the process. Lee Ki-yeon realized that he had chosen the wrong approach to Jung Ha-young, and now he is scared. However, he has to act quickly, so he chose another way to control Jung Ha-young. Lee Ki-yeon hovered over Jung Ha-young and told her that he loved her. Jung Ha-young instantly came to her senses and collapsed. Lee Ki-yeon thought he wanted to maintain a purer romantic relationship, but there it is. Lee Ki-yeon said that he didn't leave Jung Ha-young for anything, and he himself thought that leaving such a strong card made no sense at all if you could take everything for yourself. Lee Ki-yeon thought he was the only one here who should be worried about being abandoned, but he said out loud that he just wanted to protect Jung Ha-young from danger, and that's why he's taking this step. Lee Ki-yeon remarked that he needed to build a relationship with that woman in order to have power. Jung Ha-young wanted to deny that she could protect him herself, but then she remembered Cha Hee-ru and fell silent. But Lee Ki-yeon heard everything and replied that in that case, Jung Ha-young should become stronger than she is now. Lee Ki-yeon had no doubt that Jung Ha-young had already made up her mind, but at least she calmed down. Lee Ki-yeon kissed Jung Ha-young, and she passionately kissed him back because it was their first kiss, and Jung Ha-young had to cleanse her lover of that disgusting woman. She decided that she would definitely become stronger. Lee Ki-yeon left the guild and went to the Red Mercenaries. The security recognized him, and Lee Ki-yeon stated that he came to meet with Miss Cha Hee-roy. The guild building is simply huge. Lee Ki-yeon almost got lost in the corridors. He also hoped Cha Hee-ra would appreciate him wearing her date gift. Lee Ki-yeon knocked on the door of Cha Hee-ra's room several times and hoped that she would be there at such a time. The door kicked open and a disgruntled Cha Hee-ra growled, thinking it was her subordinate. However, in a few seconds, the sleeping woman came to her senses and realized who was standing in front of her. She asked if Lee Ki-yeon had changed his mind, and he said not really. Cha Hee-ra stated that she can't stand people who go around the topic, so Lee Ki-yeon should be clear. Lee Ki-yeon thought that Cha Hee-ra has a very straightforward personality, and he should be the same. Lee Ki-yeon took a deep breath and directly asked Cha Hee-ru to be his sponsor. Cha Hee-ri liked his directness and invited Lee Ki-yeon inside. Cha Hee-ra said that she had a weakness for cute boys with fox faces, then patted the bed next to her and needed to sit up and start being cute immediately. Lee Ki-yeon asked again, not sure if he had heard correctly. Cha Hee-ra smiled. If he is offering her to be a sponsor, then he should come to be appreciated properly. Lee Ki-yeon quickly replied that he did not mean such a sponsorship, but only suggested that Cha Hee-ri invest in his squad, because in the future, everyone will win. However, Cha Hee-ra replied that she already understood it. Cha Hee-ra decided that none of Lee Ki-yeon's squad would accept her proposal, so she saw no point in looking after other people's children. It's easier to have fun with Lee Ki-yeon a few times and give money. Lee Ki-yeon understood that he was being bombarded with facts, but he replied that he was asking to become a sponsor for a reason. Cha Hee-ra just laughed at how confident he was in his proposal. Lee Ki-yeon decided that even just becoming Cha Hee-ra's puppy and having that kind of protection already would be nice, but the mere thought of such a scenario almost sickened him. Cha Hee-ra asked to continue, and Lee Ki-yeon said that he would make it so that she could get Jung Ha-young and Kim Hyun-sung's support. Lee Ki-yeon insisted that Cha Hee-ra could have judged them herself at the demonstration. Cha Hee-ra remarked that she didn't care. She is one of the strongest on the continent, and her guild can afford to hire good mages. Cha Hee-ra was aware of the power of these two, but not desperate to agree. Also, Cha Hee-ra did not agree to allies. She needed people exclusively under her control. And if Lee Ki-yeon is going to keep talking nonsense, he better go to bed right now. Cha Hee-ra promised not to offend Lee Ki-yeon, to give a lot of gifts, and maybe even become a sponsor for the whole group. Lee Ki-yeon feels that Cha Hee-ra will continue to act like this no matter what. Lee Ki-yeon went to Plan B, even though he felt a little sorry for the pendant. He tore it from his neck and threw it at Cha Hee-ri, saying that he allowed too much, and now she sees him as a rag. Lee Ki-yeon growled that he didn't need money, nor did he need such gifts. He wants Cha Hee-ra herself, her power and strength, and he's not interested in anything other than that. He lied, but all for the sake of the goal. Cha Hee-ra menacingly asked if Lee Ki-yeon understood what he was doing and if he forgot his place because of the pile of offers. Lee Ki-yeon went to Plan B in an instant and said that he knows his place very well. Lee Ki-yeon assured that he could disappear in an instant with one word from Cha Hee-ri. That he is a member of a popular squad, but he himself is only a pawn. Lee Ki-yeon played on Cha Hee-ra's emotions and moved on to Plan G, the final one. Lee Ki-yeon got down on one knee and declared that this is why he needs her, mercenary queen Cha Hee-ru. Lee Ki-yeon hesitated if it would work, and Cha Hee-ra replied that he was really very cute. Cha Hee-ra noted that not many people could speak to her with such confidence, which made her curious. She's sure Lee Ki-yeon has something else in store, and Lee Ki-yeon confirmed it. Cha Hee-ra suggested an equal exchange based on the rule of alchemy. A couple of squad members is still not enough, so Lee Ki-yeon has to continue his offers. Lee Ki-yeon was ready for this, so he took out his alchemy book and offered a share of the potions he would create and sell in the future. Cha Hee-ra is interested in the heroic subject and words about the share. Lee Ki-yeon offered 1%. At first, Cha Hee-ra said it was very little, but he explained that the market was big and he was quite skilled. Even with 1%, Cha Hee-ra would have a lot of money. Lee Ki-yeon knew that this was a brazen lie and a bluff, but now somehow his words seemed weighty. And indeed, Cha Hee-ra asked to continue. Lee Ki-yeon's next offer is friendship with the Sinev Guild. Cha Hee-ra asked if Lee Ki-yeon was lying now, but it was true. Kim Hyun-sung will be stronger and stronger, and they will become a new generation. Lee Ki-yeon revealed that the guild will be strong, and Cha Hee-ra can deal with them even before that with a small investment. Cha Hee-ra asked how Lee Ki-yeon knew it would be like this. Lee Ki-yeon did not reveal Kim Hyun-sung's secret, but instead said that the last item would be to provide the mages that the mercenaries needed. He took out a scroll with written names and offered to choose. Cha Hee-ra is shocked. Just as Lee Ki-yeon predicted, he decided to get the trump card right away. The mages in the scroll had recently been trained under Seneva's supervision, but there were also talents among them. Cha Hee-ra is interested, but asks if Lee Ki-yeon can really provide it. Lee Ki-yeon replied that firstly, he will soon become the executive director and owner of the negotiation rights, and secondly, it is a secret. Cha Hee-ra is unhappy with this, but equal exchange is the basis of alchemy, and Lee Ki-yeon was not going to give her more information, especially about his ability. Cha Hee-ra is deep in thought. It seemed to Lee Ki-yeon that she would just kill him now, and he mentally said goodbye to all his relatives and friends. However, Cha Hee-ra asked for 3%. also a list of capable magicians and melee fighters, and she herself will decide how to protect Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Ki-yong agreed to these terms. Cha Hee-ra said that they would discuss everything again later, but for now he should go. Lee Ki-yeon couldn't believe that he actually succeeded. Her mercenaries ran to Cha Hee-ra's room, and Lee Ki-yeon decided to eavesdrop under the door. When he heard that the mercenaries promised to protect him at the cost of their own lives, he grinned with satisfaction. Lee Ki-yeon happily headed to the Blue Guild, only to find that he had received a new title. Opening the status window, he read, "The Mercenary Queen's Lover," and this is not good news at all. It's been 2 weeks since I met Cha Hee-ra. Lee Ki-yong's position in Sinev rose very quickly, according to the agreements. And today, the squad was finally supposed to move to its own base. Lee Ki-yeon thought that he really liked how the job was arranged in Sun. Organizational work is divided into parts, so participants are less dependent on higher ranks. It was a little strange for Lee Ki-yeon to be a member of the battle squad, but to be sitting in the administrative chair. But he was fine with everything, especially how friendly the guild treated him. Cha Hee-ra showered Lee Ki-yeon with gifts in the form of rare alchemical ingredients and equipment. He expected that he would be retaliated against, but apparently the guild decided that it was more profitable to invest. As a result of getting closer to the Queen of Mercenaries, Sineva's business went up. And given that Lee Ki-yong was the cause of this, his influence has grown dramatically. People were gossiping about Lee Ki-yeon dumping Jung Ha-young right after graduation, and it really annoyed Lee Ki-yeon because it wasn't his decision. The biggest problem remained Jung Ha-young herself, who started going crazy when she found out about Lee Ki-yeon's new title. Jung Ha-young began to devote all her time to training. Kim Hyun-sung asked what Lee Ki-yeon was talking about with the Mercenary Queen then. Lee Ki-yeon replied that he only asked to be their sponsor and didn't understand what the whole circus was about. Kim Hyun-sung thought Cha Hee-ra was a different person and was very happy that Lee Ki-yeon managed to establish a friendly relationship with her. Lee Ka-yeon decided that Kim Hyun-sung just remembered Cha Hee-ra differently. Jung Ha-young was training several magic attributes at the same time by the lake, while Park Dae-ok was making a boat for her. Kim Hyun-sung thought that training for Jung Ha-young was only for the benefit, and so he allowed it. Lee Ki-yeon asked Kim Hyun-sung how he was doing. He talked about the discussion about the new Garden of Horrors dungeon and the negotiations over who would get the opportunity to clear the dungeon. Kim Hyun-sung is confident that this opportunity will reach them, and therefore suggested to Lee Ki-yeon to prepare in advance and take into account that there may be others who want to join the expedition. Lee Ki-yeon noted that he would be happy to process information about new recruits, but currently, Sinava does not have the funds for many people. It is quite likely that it happened because of them. Lee Ki-yeon promised to think about allocating his own funds for the financing and said that it was for the sake of the guild and Kim Hyun-sung himself. Kim Hyun-sung was moved by what he heard. Lee Ki-yeon felt that his to-do list was constantly growing and he needed more hands. At such moments, he remembered Lee Jae-hai, but he understood that he would do better than Kim Hyun-sung expected. However, Lee Ki-yeon felt that even this was not enough. He had to gain more of Kim Hyun-sung's inclination, otherwise he would quickly dismiss him as unnecessary. In the office, Lee Sang-gi and Lee Seok-ho had a heated discussion about the fact that the army had not been contacted for several days and they should send more supplies to support them. Lee Seok-ho answered Lee Sang-gi with a bored face and she yelled at him, but then called him uncle, which made Lee Seok-ho finally smile and say that he hadn't heard that in a long time. Lee Sang-gi said she would take the newbies to Lindell, so Lee Seok-ho should take care of the guild. She very much asked not to make any more trouble, just to keep everything under control. Lee Seok-ho remarked that he was doing this solely for the benefit of the guild, and he was sorry that Lee Sang-gi didn't understand that. Although they are not blood relatives, they have come all the way with the guild head. Lee Seok-ho had promised to take care of his head, so there was no point in worrying about the internal affairs of the guild. Lee Sang-gi trusted him and went to Lindell. Lee Seok-ho was just waiting for Lee Sang-gi to leave the office. He ordered only to pretend that additional supplies had been sent to the army of the head. He needed Lee Sang-gi as a puppet for a successful plan. Lee Seok-ho told the accomplices that it was very important for them to make sure that Ju Sung-jung, the head of the guild, did not return alive and that he hoped for a fruitful cooperation. An accomplice named Wan Young asked about the rookie that was causing Lee Seok-ho trouble. Lee Seok-ho assured him that he would die from a simple dungeon raid, so there was nothing to worry about. Lee Seok-ho invited the accomplices to meet in Celia. He promised to bring a bunch of heroic rank items with him that should please Ito-san and conveyed his gratitude. In the morning, Lee Ki-yong went to the arena, where he chatted with a flattering subordinate. Lee Ki-yeon said that he decided to visit the other rookies before sending them to the dungeon. Lee Ki-yong was introduced to the newcomers, and they couldn't believe their eyes. Previously, they also saw Kim Hyun-sung and others here, so the whole squad got into the leading roles of Suniva. People started saying they should have joined their raiding party. Lee Ki-young thought that these people can't even light a fire with their fingers, so they can't dream. People looked at Lee Ki-young as a king, and he was enjoying the power he had right now. Being close to the powerful turned out to be a great tactic. Suddenly, in the middle of the others, Lee Ki-young saw Lee Jae-hai. He offered her to join then, but Lee Jae-hai refused because she was too scared and risky. Lee Ki-yeon thought it would be great to take Lee Jae-hai in, since she's very smart, and he doesn't have enough free hands lately. Lee Ki-yong did not want to give Lee Jae-hai to other guilds. Lee Sang-gi also entered the arena and curiously asked if Lee Ki-yeon wanted to take someone else into her 7th squad. The guild is ready to support any of his ideas. Lee Sang-gi announced to the people that she was grateful for their work and that they would now live in the city of Lindell, where the 3 largest guilds coexist harmoniously. Someone has already been invited. Someone will want to create their own. Also, someone can choose to live a peaceful life. The only sincere advice for any situation that Lee Sang-gi gave to all newbies is to survive. Kim Hyun-sung walked by and a guy from the crowd started shouting indignantly that he promised to take them all to the top, but only made it by himself and now ignores his people. Lee Ki-yeon is furious because this guy kept pushing Jung Ha-young and doing nothing, and now he demands something. Especially when Kim Hyun-sung was already giving them all his resources in the camp. The crowd picked up on the guy's idea, and everyone started demanding that Kim Hyun-sung take them with him. Lee Ki-yeon was worried that Kim Hyun-sung was silent for so long and did nothing to resolve the situation. Kim Hyun-sung came closer to the boy and coldly said that he would have to forgive him because their short acquaintance would end here. Lee Ki-yeon is pleased with these words. The boy begged Kim Hyun-sung to say that he was joking. Kim Hyun-sung replied that they had better start worrying about their own lives. The guy yelled that it was just irresponsible and Lee Ki-yeon had to intervene. Lee Ki-yong noted that life behind the city walls may not be as comfortable as one would like, but it will be safe. The guy indignantly notes that they built a stone wall in the camp, and that was help. Lee Ki-yong threw him a purse of 5,000 gold and asked him to consider it a parting gift. The mood of the crowd instantly changed. They started thanking Lee Ki-yeon because all they really wanted was money. Lee Ki-yeon said goodbye to everyone and mockingly wished them a happy life. The guy was carrying a purse with gold, happy, and people around him were already taking out knives to take this loot from him. And of course, Lee Ki-yeon lied about the 5,000, which was actually a very small amount. Lee Jae-hai laughed at the sight of this circus. She thought that Lee Ki-yong hadn't changed a bit. Lee Ki-yeon wanted to approach her, but Lee Jae-hai acted very confident, as if she already had a guild. Lee Sang-gi said that Lee Ki-yeon has a very good heart. However, the news is not the most pleasant. You will have to walk to Lindell. Lee Ki-yeon became upset because he was already used to carriages. They were joined by Park Deok-koo and Jung Ha-young. They pulled the boat behind them and offered to ride on it. Park Deok-koo was going to pull this boat with his own hands. Park Deok-koo noted that this would increase the effectiveness of his endurance training. Jung Ha-young supported him by saying that she really wants to go on a boat ride with her lover. Kim Hyun-sung countered that they were leaving soon and could just pack the boat with other things. He also thanked Lee Ki-yeon for saving him in this situation with the people from the camp. Along the way, Jung Ha-young said that she tried a new spell today. Thanks to the combination of 3 elements, she managed to split the lake in half. Lee Ki-yeon is shocked that such a thing is even possible. Although Lee Ki-yeon was unhappy that he had to walk as the leader of the guild, he was happy that Park Deok-koo was able to calm Jung Ha-yang and curb her madness. Finally, Lindell, the city of freedom, where the people who came from Earth had settled, loomed before them. Lee Ki-yeon thought that this was Kim Hyun-sung's yard, and he was obliged to give him an apartment. Kim Hyun-sung had looked worried on the way, but now he was even more tormented by the memories. However, he looked at the happy Lee Ki-yeon, Park Deok-koo, and Jung Ha-young, and his heart grew more cheerful. Kim Hyun-sung thought that he would be successful in this life. He will not make his previous mistakes and will definitely get everything from her. The excited squad was heading down the street where the bidding was unfolding. The search for participants in the group. Various goods and services were offered and sought. The atmosphere around was simply magical. Lee Sa-gyun said that Lindell is mostly inhabited by Koreans. To Lee Ki-yeon's fair remark that it attracts people from all over the world, she said that this is historically the case. Lee Ki-young heard several calls for a priest and realized that priests were in high demand. It seems that this is a rare class, and it is desirable that they also get one in the team. Suddenly, a girl rushed past them and disappeared among the houses. Lee Ki-yeon nervously checked his wallet, but luckily it hadn't disappeared. Lee Sang-gi said that things like this happen sometimes. There is a police force in town, but they can't handle everything. Lee Ki-yeon understood that with these words, Lee Sang-gi was trying to hide the gap between the poor and the rich in this city. Kim Hyun-sung looked intently at the poor people. Lee Ki-yeon mentally asked Kim Hyun-sung not to make him nervous or even think about opening a charity fund. Finally, they arrived at Suniva's guild. The building looked simply luxurious, attracting the attention of each member of the squad. Inside, everything spoke of the luxury of the guild. The bartender caught Park Deok-ku's attention, and he immediately offered Lee Ki-yeon a glass, happy beyond belief. Lee Ki-yeon thought that the guild headquarters looked much better. It was hard to even say that Blue was on the verge of bankruptcy. Still, he couldn't call this place home yet. Lee Sang-gi showed everyone where the food hall was and then led them to the second floor. There were private rooms, most of which were empty, so everyone could choose which one they wanted. Jung Ha-young stated that she and Lee Ki-yeon are now like newlyweds and can share a room. Park Deok-ku actively overheard these words and tried to assure the correctness of this idea. Lee Ki-yeon snapped that he and Jung Ha-young should occupy the adjacent rooms. As an argument, he noted that if you are constantly together, the passion will quickly disappear. Jung Ha-young was miraculously satisfied with this reason. Lee Sang-gi told where the other places were, including the training grounds, and then told Lee Ki-yeon that a separate room had been prepared for him and asked him to follow her. At the end of the corridor was Lee Ki-yeon's personal alchemy laboratory, equipped with all possible and impossible paraphernalia for alchemy. Lee Sang-gi lamented that she wanted to offer more room, but since this was their first experience training non-combat personnel, it worked out that way. Lee Ki-yeon thanked her sincerely for everything. Lee Ki-yeon couldn't help but wonder if anyone else on the continent was lucky enough to start with such a luxurious setting. Now he understood that he was not treated like dead weight. Park Deok-ku offered Lee Ki-yeon to have dinner with everyone, but Lee Ki-yeon declined. He was very anxious to finally try all the possibilities of his class and reveal his potential. Lee Sang-gi smiled and said that she would also like to have dinner together with the squad, but that can be postponed until a better time, then said her goodbyes and left. Park Deok-ku shrugged his shoulders and said that in that case he would also go to train, and things should also be laid out. Jung Ha-young awkwardly said that she will go to study as well. Kim Hyun-sung squared his shoulders decisively and said that he was going to visit a poor area. Lee Ki-yeon didn't understand why he needed it, but he knew he had to stop Kim Hyun-sung. Lee Ki-yeon wasn't going to let Kim Hyun-sung play mercy and waste his time and resources on other people. Wouldn't it be better to spend it all on your squad members? But Kim Hyun-sung replied that he saw many people in the square who were looking for pens. Therefore, he decided to go and look for those among them who would agree to work with Suniva. This fundamentally changes the situation, which Lee Ki-yeon more than agrees with. Everyone wished Kim Hyun-sung good luck and asked him to be careful. Lee Ki-yeon realized that the first Suniva were from there, precisely from the poor areas. The girl who crashed into him earlier ran across rooftops at night and scattered food to her friends. Lee Ki-yeon concentrated his alchemical experiments. He understood that alchemy requires a subtle approach, first to check a bunch of theories and options, and only then to create something. It is scary for Lee Ki-yeon to even imagine how much money went into his experiments, especially when he repeatedly fails. However, he could not worry about the price of materials. Lee Ki-yeon didn't want to mess with the theory, so he just mixed everything in succession, which gave some success. He believed that he should focus on the result, and therefore he could skip the theory. After a while, Lee Ki-yeon mastered the introduction to the alchemy book and could also create most of the potions sold in the shops. His intelligence and mana also increased. There was a knock on the door. There, Park Deok-ku and Jung Ha-young brought a delivery of materials. They are happy and smiling, And of course, they disinfected themselves before entering the laboratory. Lee Ki-yeon asked why Park Deok-koo brought the boxes himself, since there is a special person for that. Park Deok-koo replied that this was almost the only opportunity to meet Lee Ki-yeon. Jung Ha-young gently asked Lee Ki-young if he had eaten yet. Lee Ki-young suddenly realized that he had lost track of time with the experiments. Jung Ha-young handed Lee Ki-young the lunch she made herself. The food looked amazing, and Jung Ha-young said that she was thinking about Lee Ki-young while cooking. Lee Ki-yeon found her incredibly cute at this moment. Lee Ki-yeon took the food and thanked Jung Ha-young sincerely. They were laughing sweetly, but Park Deok-koo suddenly fell to the floor. He said something about meatballs, and Lee Ki-yeon began to realize that something was wrong. Jung Ha-young was angry that Lee Ki-yeon never tried, unlike Park Deok-koo. She went crazy again and aggressively tried to feed Lee Ki-yeon by herself. When Lee Ki-yeon regained consciousness, everything around him was covered in what looked like blood, but Jung Ha-young was happily wiping his mouth with a napkin. Lee Ki-yeon tried his best not to ask questions. Park Deok-koo still hasn't regained consciousness. Fortunately, Lee Ki-yeon already had a potion for this case. Jung Ha-young decided that this was incredibly cool. Park Deok-koo opened his eyes and thanked Lee Ki-yeon sincerely. Park Deok-koo felt amazing after Lee Ki-yeon's potion and said that he is a great alchemist. Lee Ki-yeon replied that the potion could only heal minor injuries and restore energy. Even so, Park Deok-koo believed that it was only a matter of time before Lee Ki-yeon became fabulously rich. Lee Ki-yeon replied with satisfaction that he only focuses on those potions that pay well. It turns out that all this time, while Lee Ki-yeon was missing in the lab, Kim Hyun-sung was training with everyone and then going to the slum with a bunch of food. Lee Ki-yeon concluded that hiring people from the poor neighborhood was not going very well and decided to go there himself. Park Deok-koo and Jung Ha-young were extremely surprised by such a decision. Jung Ha-young offered to go with Lee Ki-yeon to protect him in case of anything. Lee Ki-yeon didn't give up because Jung Ha-young is very strong. Park Deok-koo decided that in that case, it would be better for him to stay. Lee Ki-yeon wanted to definitely help Kim Hyun-sung with this case. Even before leaving, he took with him a potion to enhance emotions, just in case. The carriage took Lee Ki-yeon and Jung Ha-young around the city, which felt like a tour. Watching the houses in Lindell, Lee Ki-yeon was fascinated at first, but now he is used to it. The driver asked why young people are in the poor quarter, because it is a dangerous place, and the atmosphere is very different from the central part. Lee Ki-yeon replied that they had recently moved and were looking around. Lee Ki-yeon lazily scanned the windows of the poor, not noticing anything tall. Suddenly, his eyes fell on a woman with a holy strength of 69, and this made Lee Ki-yeon quite interested. Sun Hee-yeon was perfect for the squad in Lee Ki-yeon's opinion, so he stopped the charioteer in an instant and said that he and Jung Ha-young would get there on their own. Lee Ki-yeon thought it was the same Jung Ha-young, only a priestess. Exactly what he was looking for. Jung Ha-young was happily running beside him, still not understanding why. Lee Ki-yeon decided that he would definitely recruit a legendary class priestess for Kim Hyun-sung, but when he got to Sun Hee-yeon, he saw representatives of other guilds beside her. Sun Hee-yeon calmly replied to everyone that she was grateful for the help, but had no intention of leaving the area and wanted to personally support these people. The representatives of the guilds offered various conditions, but in vain. Lee Ki-yeon decided that the priest class itself was already rare, and Sun Hee-yeon's character was also very independent. He was considering options for how to interest this woman by bypassing all the others. The representatives of the Black Swan Guild offered to help Sun Hee-yeon once again to deliver bowls of porridge. Sun Hee-yeon was grateful for the help, but the Black Swan girls were sick of the situation. Lee Ki-yeon saw this and thought that even he would have done much better. He was annoyed by the scene of people who had nothing to do with altruism trying to woo the holy priestess. However, there were also many hypocrites among the poor. They asked the priestess for everything, from food and water to a newspaper, as if they had no hands themselves. Lee Ki-yeon seemed to be looking at the final stage of the people from the camp. The poor man asked the priestess to come tomorrow and bring as much oatmeal as possible. Sun Hee-yeon replied that she would come every day and spoon-fed the poor man. Lee Ki-yeon thought it was a disgusting sight. Sun Hee-yeon looked more like a loser who was commanded by lazy brats than a priestess who helped the unfortunate. Li Qiyan originally wanted to join this farce to recruit Sung Hee-yeon, but now his plans have changed. He was loath to do what others were doing, and with no other approach, Sun Hee-yeon would refuse. Li Qiyan pretended to be a tourist and loudly asked if this was a poor neighborhood. He was walking, looking around and crossing his arms. Jung Ha-young was running behind, and this caught Sun Hee-yeon's attention. Sun Hee-yeon was happy about the new visitors, but Li Qiyan cut her off by saying that he already knew he would see a pigsty here. These words touched everyone in the square. Li Qiyan decided to interest Sun Hee-yeon with aggression. When the priestess questioned what exactly he said, Li Qiyan repeatedly called everyone around him useless pigs. People started shouting that it was very rude and no one deserved to be treated like that. They noticed that Li Qiyan was from Seneva and began to ask what the bankrupt guild had forgotten here. Sun Hee-yeon said that according to the word of God, everyone should share bread with the hungry and clothes with the naked. All these people have been thrown out of society for various reasons and should be treated well. As the priestess who took responsibility for saving these people, Sun Hee-yeon can't let them be talked about like that. So she asks Li Qiyan to apologize and go away. Li Qiyan understood the priority of the priestess. She was focused on helping the poor, so she wouldn't be able to devote time to the guild either. And therefore, the methods of other guilds will not work on her. Li Qiyan refused to apologize. He declared that all these people are not worthy of help because they are just trash, who will not move a finger. They will only expect help from the outside. Li Qiyan pressured Sun Hee-yeon by saying that decent people wouldn't ask her for small things. Sun Hee-yeon was angry because in her opinion, Li Qiyan has no right to say such things. Sun Hee-yeon said that someone like Li Qiyan can't understand the fates of these people because this country only encourages strength and talent and everyone else is thrown away as junk. Sun Hee-yeon remarked that Li Qiyan got into the Great Guild because of his talents and will never understand the poor. Besides, he comes here because he has nothing to do, and in fact, Li Qiyan is the scum of society. Li Qiyan was annoyed but thought that Sun Hee-yeon had made a mistake again. Sun Hee-yeon thought he had nothing more to say and turned to leave when Li Qiyan called her a pig. Li Qiyan said that he understood why all these people behave the way they do. She trained them. Sun Hee-yeon shouted that everything is Seneva's fault. People are poor because people like Li Qiyan sit at the top. Li Qiyan was amused by these words and offered Sun Hee-yeon to show the real reason for the decay of the city. Realize the truth from which she is running away. Li Qiyan asked for general attention and offered work to all present, construction or experiments. Li Qiyan offered a 30% higher rate and food, and the reward would depend on quality. The other guilds nearby protested, but Li Qiyan continued to press on the emotions, asking the people if they wanted to continue living the life of cockroaches and relying on others for help. People were touched by Li Qiyan's words, and they seriously thought about his proposal. Sun Hee-yeon stood stunned as Li Qiyan offered everyone present the right to another life. Sun Hee-yeon tried to prove that Li Qiyan was lying, but people were already interested and asking him questions about work. Li Qiyan is satisfied. Everything went as he planned. Li Qiyan told the people that if they still had doubts, he could accept Sun Hee-yeon as Sinyu's advisor. Sun Hee-yeon snapped that Li Qiyan can't handle everything on her own. Other guilds continued their protests, but the poor people raised their hands one by one and wanted to go to Seneva. Li Qiyan asked if Sun Hee-yeon would follow him in that case, since these people still need her. Sun Hee-yeon refused to join Sinyu, but Li Qiyan said that he likes altruists like her. He mentally declared Sun Hee-yeon as his personal healer and told the people to come tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Sun Hee-yeon stated that she still doesn't trust Li Qiyan, but is grateful to him for the jobs. Only Li Qiyan remarked that it would not really change much. Sun Hee-yeon didn't understand what he was talking about. Li Qiyan asked how many years Sun Hee-yeon has been volunteering, and then he asked if during these 3 years at least one of these people got back on their feet. Nobody, because nobody really wanted to leave here. Li Qiyan provoked Sun Hee-yeon. He asked if she ever thought that these people don't deserve to be cared for, that she should take care of herself, that everything is useless. Sun Hee-yeon was embarrassed. Sun Hee-yeon replied that yes, she had those thoughts, but she couldn't just stand by and watch others suffer. She just wanted to make Lindell a beautiful city. Li Qiyan looked at Sun Hee-yeon's expression and was happy. Doubts assailed her from all sides, while reality showed its face. By only making Sun Hee-yeon doubt, Lee Ki-yeon had already achieved his goal. Just in case, Lee Ki-yeon decided to use an emotion enhancement potion on Soo Hee-yeon, and thus finally made her believe in him. Lee Ki-yeon woke up tired. There had been no news from Kim Hyun-sung for 4 days, and it was getting suspicious. However, some poor people worked well, so everything was not in vain. Lee Ki-yeon thought that very soon many of the poor would start to shun work, and then he would be able to show their essence to Sun Hee-yeon and recruit her to Sinyu. Lee Ki-yeon saw that the workers had indeed escaped. The poor were just discussing that it was easier for them to do nothing on the street and get free food from the priestess than to work for Lee Ki-yeon. The poor quarter is a paradise for them. The drunken poor saw Lee Ki-yeon and laughed at him. They said that Lee Ki-yeon was not a man. He would not go far on such legs, and in general, if he was so rich, he would walk and eat at least a little. Lee Ki-yeon approached Sun Hee-yeon and asked to give him a moment's attention. He showed the priestess drunkards who were freed only 3 days after the beginning and are again demanding food from the priestess. Lee Ki-yeon asked Sun Hee-yeon if she really still thinks that the top is to blame. He believed that Sun Hee-yeon would not succeed in pretending that nothing was happening and that she did not see anything. Sun Hee-yeon countered that these people were just traumatized by alcohol and that it was Lee Ki-yeon who first insulted them by calling them pigs. Lee Ki-yeon couldn't believe his ears. Lee Ki-yeon stated that it was because of people like this that Lindell couldn't blossom. But Sun Hee-yeon insisted that these people were just trying to fight back at someone in power, and it wasn't for Lee Ki-yeon to judge them. Lee Ki-yeon realized that he had miscalculated. Sun Hee-yeon's beliefs are too strong, and she strictly divides the world into black and white. Lee Ki-yeon asked what to do about harassment then. Sun Hee-yeon snaps that he has stooped to the level of slander. Everyone present here is a member of a good family, and Sun Hee-yeon knows them well. Lee Ki-yeon stated that Sun Hee-yeon sees the world the way she wants to see it, so why not test her bias? Sun Hee-yeon refused if Lee Ki-yeon wants to. Nai does it himself. Sun Hee-yeon walks away saying that Lee Ki-yeon's expectations will never be met. Lee Ki-yeon decided that if she was still resisting, then it was time to take drastic measures. The poor threw bottles at Lee Ki-yeon and said that he was a sly bastard and was knocking priestesses on them. It was because of Lee Ki-yeon that Sun Hee-yeon recently looked at the poor strangely. Lee Ki-yeon asked not to resort to violence, but the poor were already angry and rushed at him in a crowd. Lee Ki-yeon apologized and begged for mercy, but to no avail. The poor gang beat Lee Ki-yeon, who was already lying on the ground, and mocked him. They justified themselves with the words of the priestess about self-defense and believed that nothing would happen to them for it. Lee Ki-yeon called the priestess for help, but Sun Hee-yeon just walked away with a stony expression on her face. She believed that Lee Ki-yeon deserved it and should be punished as a sinner to the extent of his malice. When the poor people finished beating Lee Ki-yeon and left him lying on the ground, they continued to mock him for not even being a man. One of the poor even asked if Lee Ki-yeon could really turn out to be a girl. Lee Ki-yeon heard their words about dressing up and thought that these poor people were even more stupid than they appeared. Although he participated in such competitions at the university, but only for the sake of money, Lee Ki-yeon suddenly came up with a plan and smiled. This smile annoyed the poor, and they decided to sell it on the black market to then spend the money on alcohol. While they were talking, Lee Ki-yeon disappeared. Lee Ki-yeon went to Jung Ha-young, who was just sleeping in the camp. Jung Ha-young was frightened by the sight of Lee Ki-yeon's bruised face. Lee Ki-yeon replied that it was small things, but he needed something. Lee Ki-yeon asked Jung Ha-young to use reincarnation magic. Jung Ha-young is surprised. The magic of reincarnation is temporary, and why does Lee Ki-yeon have it anyway? But he needed to turn into a beautiful girl. Jung Ha-young still didn't understand why this was to Lee Ki-yeon and replied that she had never participated in such debauchery before. Lee Ki-yeon sighed heavily. Jung Ha-young misunderstood everything again. Jung Ha-young cast a spell, and within minutes, Lee Ki-yeon was transformed into a scantily clad witch girl, Lee Gi-yoon. Jung Ha-young remarked that Lee Ki-yeon was handsome like a succubus. Lee Ki-yeon looked in the mirror and realized that he hadn't changed much. But for Jung Ha-young, he was perfect from the beginning. However, Lee Ki-yeon just hoped that he looked defenseless enough. He invited Jung Ha-young to teach those poor people with him, and Jung Ha-young happily agreed. Sun Hee-yeon remembered Lee Ki-yeon's words about those who were abused. She believed that this could not happen. Sometimes the poor quarrel, but this is the order of things. It is impossible to prevent someone from being sad. Sun Hee-yeon thought that she should be the one to break up the argument. How these poor people instantly returned to their good nature, so she didn't believe that these people were just taking advantage of her. Those poor people who beat up Lee Ki-yeon were now sitting under the canopy, wondering what to do if he told everything to his guild. They believed that he should be caught and killed. Now, the most important thing for the poor is to make sure that the loser priestess does not suspect them of anything. Their thoughts were interrupted by Lee Ki-yeon's angry shout in girl form. Suddenly, Sun Hee-yeon heard a girl's scream. Jung Ha-young ran up to Sun Hee-yeon and shouted that two locals had a fight there, and the man attacked the girl. Sun Hee-yeon couldn't believe her ears. Sun Hee-yeon ran after Jung Ha-young and thought it must be some kind of misunderstanding. She is sure of it. All these people are members of one friendly family. They love each other. Sun Hee-yeon convinced herself of this. She really hoped that she would not see the worst. However, she saw the truth, and Lee Ki-yeon's words about kindness and weakness echoed in Sun Hee-yeon's head again. Lee Ki-yeon thought with satisfaction that Sun Hee-yeon had never seen anything like this before. He called for help, and the poor man shouted that he would show the little whore her place. Sun Hee-yeon rushed to the poor and demanded an immediate end to this madness, tried to stop the fight. However, the man pushed her away with his hand, causing Sun Hee-yeon to fall to the ground. Lee Ki-yeon reached out to Sun Hee-yeon and let out a shrill cry with tears in his eyes. He understood that this is reality. What's more, Sun Hee-yeon cannot worry about her dress. He will give her a more beautiful one. The poor suddenly noticed Sun Hee-yeon and began to panic. Lee Ki-yeon saw Sun Hee-yeon looking at him and pretending to be in agony, crying and moaning. Sun Hee-yeon thought that she was too stupid. Her own selfishness clouded her eyes, and while she tried to escape from reality, an unknown number of people were affected. Sun Hee-yeon held Lee Ki-yeon's hand and begged him to come to his senses, promising to cure him immediately. Lee Ki-yeon snorted and said that he just couldn't stand by when the poor started humiliating the priestess. Lee Ki-yeon was waiting for the necessary reaction, and it happened. Sun Hee-yeon said she was deeply disappointed in these people. How could they do something like that when she cared so much about them? Sun Hee-yeon chased the poor people out of the block, and Lee Ki-yeon was happy that now she would definitely join Blue. The poor tried to prove that everything is not as it seems, but Sun Hee-yeon did not want to hear anything. Sun Hee-yeon started to heal Lee Ki-yeon, but his girl image is to look as pitiful as possible, so Jung Ha-young prevented Sun Hee-yeon's magic from entering Lee Ki-yeon's body. Sun Hee-yeon didn't understand why her magic wasn't working because Lee Ki-yeon was in such a terrible state. Sun Hee-yeon understood that she was to blame for everything because she was afraid of the truth and ran away from it. Sun Hee-yeon decided that all of Lee Ki-yeon's words were true. The one who really didn't pay attention to the suffering of the downtrodden was herself. Lee Ki-yeon looked at her and coughed up some blood. Sun Hee-yeon was horrified, and Lee Ki-yeon thought that it works great on good people. Maybe he should try this trick on Kim Hyun-sun sometime. Lee Ki-yeon was very grateful to Jung Ha-young for her help. Lee Ki-yeon gave the final speech, told how incredible Sun Hee-yeon is and how much she has done for people from the street. He is grateful to the priestess for this, and therefore Lee Ki-yeon asked Sun Hee-yeon not to blame herself. Sun Hee-yeon is desperate. She begged for help, called out to someone from the guilds, but they were all long gone. Sun Hee-yeon cried and did not understand why everything turned out like this. The poor people still standing nearby mocked Sun Hee-yeon. They said she was a loser and had now shown her true colors because she found them disgusting. Lee Ki-yeon is delighted by these words. Lee Ki-yeon was grabbed by the arm, pulling him away from Sun Hee-yeon. The poor said that until recently she was pretending to be a saint, and now she's running away. So she's just a hypocrite and has to serve men in a brothel. Sun Hee-yeon started to scream. She decided that it would be better if these people did not exist at all, and black tears flowed from her eyes. In his mind, Lee Ki-yeon happily asked Sun Hee-yeon to embrace her dark side. Sun Hee-yeon demanded to let Lee Ki-yeon go, but the poor people said that she didn't understand the whole situation yet. One of the men took out a knife and declared that no one would see if they killed them here. Lee Ki-yeon leaned closer to the knife and mentally begged Jung Ha-young not to interfere. Sun Hee-yeon folded her hands in a prayer gesture, and Lee Ki-yeon thought that the situation could not be worse. Suddenly, the attacker fell to the floor, cut by magical power. Sun Hee-yeon was engulfed in dark magic and looked very formidable. Jung Ha-young is delighted with what she saw. Sun Hee-yeon's class changed to Dark Priestess. She understood that she could not love everyone, and told the poor their own words that no one would see if they died here. Lee Ki-yeon thought about what he had done. He wanted to lure Sun Hee-yeon to the dark side, but not to this extent. Lee Ki-yeon mentally asked Sun Hee-yeon not to bend the stick because it was frightening. Jung Ha-young was beaming with happiness. It seems she found her soulmate. Lee Ki-yeon, instead, thought about why he was surrounded by so many crazy people. Lee Ki-yeon's disguise has disappeared, and this is a bad moment because if an angry Sun Hee-yeon finds out about the deception, she can kill him. After killing all the attackers, Sun Hee-yeon ran to Lee Ki-yeon, happy that he was still alive, and suddenly realized that it was not a girl. Sun Hee-yeon guessed that it was a performance. Lee Ki-yeon remarks that he only wanted to show Sun Hee-yeon the reality, but her look is very angry. Jung Ha-young came to the rescue, standing in front of Lee Ki-yeon and defending him. Sun Hee-yeon raised her hand in a magical gesture, and Lee Ki-yeon decided that he would die now. However, Sun Hee-yeon did not attack. She only treated her wounds. She could not harm them. Sun Hee-yeon said that they have every right to laugh in her face, because now she is neither a priestess nor a saint, because she felt the satisfaction of killing with her own hand. Lee Ki-yeon assured Sun Hee-yeon that she did nothing wrong. And if in order to save people it is necessary to kill others, then he will go that way with her. Lee Ki-yeon offered to make Lindell better together, and Sun Hee-yeon came to have great respect for him. For her, Lee Ki-yeon is a god who opened her eyes to reality. Sun Hee-yeon went with them, comfortable talking to Jung Ha-young. The world system scolded Lee Ki-yeon for destroying the holy priestess, and Lee Ki-yeon wondered how pleased Kim Hyun-sung would be. Sun Hee-yeon and Jung Ha-young discuss how wonderful Lee Ki-yeon is and come to the conclusion that they will now do anything to protect him together. In the square, Lee Ki-yeon saw Kim Hyun-sung, whom he was very happy to see. Lee Ki-yeon hurried to introduce Sun Hee-yeon, but Kim Hyun-sung looked at her in surprise. He didn't know who the woman was. Kim Hyun-sung and Sun Hee-yeon awkwardly met, and Lee Ki-yeon realized that he had made a mistake. Lee Ki-yeon's gaze fell on the girl next to Kim Hyun-sung. Kim Ye-ri's characterizations are just off the charts. They're all legendary, just like Kim Hyun-sung's, and she's a potential killer. Lee Ki-yeon innocently asked Kim Hyun-sung who this girl was. Kim Hyun-sung explained that he found her in a poor neighborhood and that Kim Ye-ri has potential. However, she didn't like Lee Ki-yeon. However, Sun Hee-yeon and Kim Ye-ri both became members of Sunniva and the 7th Squad directly. Lee Ki-yeon sighed with great relief. A few days later, the squad had lunch together. Kim Ye-ri was getting along well with Park Dok-koo, and Lee Ki-yeon thought there was some benefit to that. Kim Hyun-sung said that they should go to the Garden of Horrors together, since they were given permission to explore the dungeon. However, other guilds must join them on this journey. Lee Ki-yeon asked what guilds they would be, and Kim Hyun-sung said Red Mercenaries, Mage Guild, and Black Swan. Lee Ki-yeon was pleased to have Cha Hee-ra on the expedition. The reward will be shared based on the contribution to the success of the expedition. However, it wasn't money or objects that Kim Hyun-sung was most interested in, but experience. Lee Ki-yeon realized that this way everyone would level up. Commander Lee Seok-ho overheard this conversation and smiled with satisfaction. He thanked his assistant, although he was a little disappointed that other guilds were involved, but nothing could be done. The assistant asked why Lee Seok-ho is so interested in the 7th Squad. Does he have ulterior motives? Lee Seok-ho denied that she had reread the novels and was in love with someone from the squad herself. On the day of the expedition, the guilds gathered together. The Black Swans tried to attract the attention of the press, but Kim Hyun-sung should have appeared, as all eyes were directed only to him. Lee Ki-yeon scanned the characteristics of fighters from other guilds. They are quite impressive, so Lee Ki-yeon was glad that their squad would have such a great meat shield. Suddenly, someone asked Lee Ki-yeon if he really decided to go to the dungeon. A woman named Petra Opera claimed that Lee Ki-yeon was just a leech who decided to suck up some experience. Lee Ki-yeon looked at Petra's characteristics and saw that she is a shrewd strategist and likes to command. Lee Ki-yeon understood that Petra deliberately provoked and annoyed him, because who is she to play politics? In the Garden of Horrors, the heroes immediately encountered monsters and problems, and Lee Ki-yeon continued to think about Petra, a high official from the Black Swan Guild. The monster attacked Park Deok-koo, hitting his unshielded arm. Lee Ki-yeon wanted to intervene, but the defender Choi Yoon-gi came to the rescue. Lee Ki-yeon is unhappy that Park Deok-koo has relaxed. Meanwhile, Petra loudly declared that Suneva's people here are not members of the guild, but simply hired killers to get rid of the heads of other guilds. She inserted English words into the language, and it sounded disgusting. Petra was asked to be quieter, but she did not calm down. Meanwhile, Choi Yoon-gi suggested Park Deok-koo to take a break, and Park Deok-koo apologized for making a common mistake in the fight. Petra suggested sending Suneva's men to the rear because they are too inexperienced. Lee Ki-yeon decided that she could laugh, but it wasn't for long, and Kim Hyun-sung frowned at the words. Lee Ki-yeon gave Choi Yoon-gi a health potion that he made himself. It had to be better than store-bought, and Choi Yoon-gi was very grateful. Lee Ki-yeon, on the other hand, wanted to bring as many allies as possible to the clash with Petra. Choi Yoon-gi enthusiastically said that Lee Ki-yeon was indeed as wonderful as his guild leader, Cha Hee-ra, said. Lee Ki-yeon listened to the words of unearthly love and wondered what kind of rumors Cha Hee-ra was spreading. Lee Ki-yeon confided in Choi Yoon-gi and said that he didn't really want to talk about it, but Petra said something in the beginning about that bitch Cha Hee-ra not being able to protect Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Ki-yeon also said that Petra called Suneva a hotbed for murderers. He shed a dramatic tear, and Choi Yoon-gi was moved by this story. Lee Ki-yeon asked not to pay attention. Suddenly, Petra had something else in mind, but Choi Yoon-gi was already angry and turned sharply against Petra. Lee Ki-yeon congratulated himself on his success. With the help of knowledge, Lee Ki-yeon bent the Mage Guild towards him. Petra asked him if Lee Ki-yeon had already played a friendly boy, but Lee Ki-yeon pretended not to understand what she was talking about. Lee Ki-yeon told Petra that she could have directly said that she wanted to receive Suneva's reward. Petra tried to deny it, but she was very worried and gave it away. Petra tried to press that Lee Ki-yeon was just hiding behind Cha Hee-ra's back. Lee Ki-yeon replied that he was not afraid of Petra at all, but Choi Yoon-gi and Kim Hyun-sung heard her every word. Petra laughed that no one would know if Lee Ki-yeon died in the dungeon, and Lee Ki-yeon asked if he could take those words as a direct threat. Petra was lost and had nothing to say. Lee Ki-yeon meanwhile continued to speak. He thought he now understood why the Black Swan sent Petra here. They wanted her to die here. Lee Ki-yeon deliberately provoked Petra to strike. Petra tried to hit Lee Ki-yeon, but her arm was caught from behind by Kim Hyun-sung. Lee Ki-yeon said that Cha Hee-ra is not the one protecting him in this dungeon. Everyone rushed to the noise. Kim Hyun-sung asked what happened, and Lee Ki-yeon replied that Petra told him to stop being friendly to others. Meanwhile, artist-journalists enthusiastically painted the attack on Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Ki-yeon decided to see if the journalists obey Petra's words when Kim Hyun-sung is around. He showed a feigned warm relationship with Kim Hyun-sung, and the press immediately jumped on it. Meanwhile, Kim Hyun-sung scolded Petra. Even if Lee Ki-yeon did something bad, she had no right to interfere and exceeded her capabilities. All responsibility for the squad is borne by Kim Hyun-sung. The other heroes scolded Petra for bringing them here, causing the delay, but Lee Ki-yeon cheered everyone on. Petra excused herself that it was only because of Suneva's weakness. Choi Yoon-gi stated that Petra does not follow the battlefield at all. Jung Ha-young actively cast spells, Kim Hyun-sung got rid of a lot of monsters, and Sun Hee-young actively healed everyone. Everyone interceded for Suneva, especially since this was their first expedition, and Petra apologized through her teeth, extremely irritated. Lee Ka-yeon thought that the more Peter talked, the deeper he buried himself. Kim Hyun-sung apologized to his squad. He had no idea that they would be treated with such contempt. However, Kim Hyun-sung assured that from now on, everything will be different. Lee Ki-yeon realized that from now on, Kim Hyun-sung would be showing his full strength, and he couldn't sit back either. Lee Ki-yeon decided that he would make Petra pay for bringing out his dark side. The expedition began attacking the second boss. Everyone took their positions, and Kim Hyun-sung flew forward like an arrow, dismembering the boss into a pile of small pieces. Petra shouted that Kim Hyun-sung does whatever he wants, and for herself, she wanted him to make as many mistakes as possible. Kim Ye-ri deftly protected Kim Hyun-sung with fire arrows, and the monster retreated. Lee Ki-yeon and Jung Ha-young waited for a signal from Kim Hyun-sung. Lee Ki-yeon and Jung Ha-young combined their own spells, preparing to strike. Jung Ha-young is happy that she could do this with Lee Ki-young. Monsters began to approach from everywhere. Kim Hyun-sung pulled Park Deok-koo along and asked him and Choi Yoon-gi to gather all the little monsters around the boss. Lee Ki-young felt proud for such a leader. Petra exclaimed with surprise that Kim Hyun-sung did not look like a rookie. Lee Ki-yeon realized that it had finally dawned on Petra that she had chosen the wrong opponent, and they were no ordinary rookies. At the moment when Lee Ki-yeon smiled in triumph, one of the journalists thought that he had finally caught on and wrote in a notebook about Lee Ki-yeon's manipulative actions. Thanks to Kim Hyun-sung's command, it was finally possible to gather all the monsters in one place. Some of them have poison, but Kim Hyun-sung was going to finish before the monsters spit it out. Kim Hyun-sung signaled to Lee Ki-yeon and Jung Ha-young, and the two of them conjured a firestorm that burned almost all the monsters and dealt a lot of damage to the boss. Kim Hyun-sung finished off the boss with one blow. Lee Ki-yeon thought that such a beautiful moment was only spoiled by the monster's blood that kept splashing on Kim Hyun-sung's face. However, at the same moment, Sun Hee-yeon cast a purification spell that brought Kim Hyun-sung's face and clothes to the perfect state they were meant to be. Kim Hyun-sung killed the monster with a straight face. This is the Suniva Guild. Everyone was delighted, both Cha Hee-ra's people and magicians. They applauded all the members of the squad and considered them the future of Suniva. Suddenly, Lee Ki-yeon stepped on something unusual. This is the same notebook of the journalist who was going to write an article about the manipulation of Lee Ki-yeon. Petra asked why Kim Hyun-sung's squad acted without coordination. She said that newcomers should know their place and not climb. Kim Hyun-sung tried to save the situation himself, but everyone was looking at Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Ki-yeon started to save the day. He stated that before coming here, the squad thought for a long time whether it was worth it. Due to Lee Ki-yeon's fear of becoming a burden, he tried his best, but it wasn't enough. Lee Ki-yeon said he knew what the problem was, and Petra thought he was going to blame her now. But Lee Ki-yeon pointed to himself and said that it was all because of him, and that he didn't want to cause any more inconvenience. Kim Hyun-sung, a good soul, started to say that Sun should leave the expedition, but Choi Yoon-gi intervened. As the head of the expedition, he had seen enough and demanded that Petra leave. Petra asked Choi Yoon-gi what the mercenary queen offered him to protect her husband. Lee Ki-yeon realized that by doing so, Petra signed her sentence. Petra didn't stop and yelled at Lee Ki-yeon that he was being cocky about his relationship with Cha Hee-ra, and they were all crazy. Because of these words, Choi Yoon-gi hit the wall above Petra's head so that it cracked. Choi Yoon-gi repeated one last time for Petra to go away. He was also supported by the Guild of Magicians, who said that Petra was behaving foolishly and that they would no longer cooperate with the Black Swan. The subsequent expedition went without a hitch, and Lee Ki-yeon asked Choi Yoon-gi if the Black Swan's contribution could be rated a little higher. Choi Yoon-gi was overwhelmed by his kindness, while Lee Ki-yeon just wanted compensation. However, that could wait. Lee Ki-yeon asked a confused Kim Hyun-sung of Lindell News if he had lost anything. Lee Ki-yeon planned to win this journalist over to his side. The reporter was visibly nervous, but Lee Ki-yeon didn't say anything bad to him. On the contrary, Lee Ki-yeon sympathized with the journalist and understood how difficult it must be in a world ruled by power. Lee Ki-yeon offered the journalist to join Suniva instead of Black Swan and write about whatever he wants, real articles that will turn the world upside down. In a few days, an article appeared about the abuse of power by the Black Swan. Petra realized that the management would kill her for such news. At the same moment, someone from the management entered the room. People picked up on the article, criticizing Black Swan and praising Blue, and especially Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Ki-yeon himself read the article with delight. He liked the title, Symbol of Resistance. Sun Hee-yeon informed Lee Ki-yeon that representatives of the Black Swan came to see him. Lee Ki-yeon knew it would happen. Petra had to take responsibility for her actions. However, Lee Ki-yeon did not expect to see the representative of the Black Swan who walked in. It was Lee Jae-hai, She is now the acting head of the guild. Lee Jae-hai asked how Lee Ki-young was doing. He tried to change the subject, but Lee Jae-hai said that if he was worried about Petra, then she had already signed a statement to leave the guild. Lee Ki-yeon noted that Lee Jae-hai simply got rid of Petra with her own hands and specifically sent her to that dungeon. Lee Jae-hai was amazed at how quickly Lee Ki-yeon understood everything. Lee Jae-hai said she came to apologize, but Lee Ki-yeon didn't believe her. As evidence, Lee Jae-hai asked Petra to tell everything, but Petra started yelling at Lee Ki-yeon, and Lee Jae-hai hit her. Tortured by the previous tortures, Petra said that the Suniva Guild will be included in the alliance of large guilds, and all the Black Swan reward for the dungeon will go to Lee Ki-yeon. Also, Lee Jae-hai promised to sponsor Kim Hyun-sung's squad and asked if it would be worth being forgiven. Lee Ki-yeon said suspiciously that it was all too good to be true. Lee Ki-yeon directly asked what Lee Jae-hai wanted. In fact, he didn't trust her and didn't want her to betray him at the crucial moment. Lee Jae-hai asked what if it was really personal. Lee Ki-yeon didn't understand what he was talking about. Lee Jae-hai then reminded him of their first kiss and how he forgot about her, apparently after having a one-night stand. Lee Ki-yeon was horrified to realize that Lee Jae-hai was jealous. Lee Jae-hai said that she doesn't care who Lee Ki-yeon sleeps with because he will still choose her in the end. Only she can put his cowardly and greedy soul on the throne. Lee Jae-hai kissed Lee Ki-yeon gently. Lee Jae-hai slyly asked if Lee Ki-yeon understood their relationship now. Lee Ka-yeon replied that he was completely at her disposal, but for now he decided to leave everything as it is. Lee Ki-yeon finally asked why him. Lee Jae-hai replied that she could come up with a bunch of reasons, but the truth is that she really likes Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Jae-hai opened the door and saw Jung Ha-young standing there, who instantly went crazy with Lee Jae-hai's presence alone. Jung Ha-young menacingly asked why Lee Jae-hai was with Lee Ka-yeon. Lee Jae-hai saved the day by asking Lee Ki-yeon if he was so persistent in rejecting her because of the presence of a cute girl. Lee Ki-yeon is sincerely grateful for saving his own skin. Kim Hyun-sung remembered that in the future, the war had engulfed the entire continent. An incredible number of people died, and he lost many of those he considered family, all because of Kim Hyun-sung's own actions. The masked man mocked Kim Hyun-sung. She said that she did not betray anyone. She only chose the side that would win. He is sorry that the great mage he loved died. The mask was also sad when the Empress killed her people with her own hands, probably because she believed that Kim Hyun-sung had betrayed her. Kim Hyun-sung shouted at the masked man, and the masked man replied that he did not expect such emotionality. Kim Hyun-sung asked to just kill him. However, the masked man had a better idea and ordered Kim Hyun-sung to kill the girl next to him, or the one who acts as his right-hand man. Kim Hyun-sung tried to attack, but it was useless. The mask again gave him a choice of who to kill, and this time the girl next to him said that it was an honor for her to die at the hands of the guild leader. The mask reminded that suicide is forbidden. That's how everyone will die. The girl next to her insisted that the head should survive and pointed Kim Hyun-sung's sword at herself. Lee Sang-gi died with a smile on her face. Mask said that Kim Hyun-sung did a great job, and as expected, he's just a piece of shit. The mask enjoyed Kim Hyun-sung's despair and disappeared. Kim Hyun-sung woke up in a cold sweat. He thought that he had not dreamed this dream for a very long time, even so bright, and he was sick of it. Park Dok-koo knocked on the door, and Kim Hyun-sung clasped his hands. This time, he didn't make the mistakes of the past, saved many people, got rid of Jung Ji-ho's group, and met Jung Ha-young and Kim Ye-ri before. Kim Hyun-sung believed that things were much better this time, and that the reason for these changes, without a doubt, was a specific person, Lee Ki-yeon. It was thanks to Lee Ki-yeon that Kim Hyun-sung got a chance. Kim Hyun-sung knew that Lee Ki-yeon was not the best fighter, but he was an indispensable advisor. Thanks to him, they entered the Suniva on excellent terms. Lee Ki-yeon created an alliance of 3 guilds and found comrades. Everyone was happy and having fun, and Kim Hyun-sung kept thinking why he didn't meet Lee Ki-yeon in his first life. Maybe Lee Ki-yeon died in the war then? Suddenly, the door opened, and Lee Sang-gi flew into the dining room. She asked everyone to continue eating and get comfortable, but they were starting their morning meeting. Lee Sang-gai said they had an emergency meeting about the guild president and asked Lee Ki-yeon and Kim Hyun-sung to go to the conference room immediately. Lee Sang-gai insisted that it was urgent. Kim Hyun-sung decided that no matter what happened in the past life, this time he will do everything to ensure that no one dies from the man in the mask and rewrite a new, happy future. Even before the appearance of the goddess Benihor, there lived Saint Hedrick, who worshipped the god of happiness, and Saint Juliana, who worshipped the god of curses. They loved each other, but this love was not allowed to live. To protect themselves from the wrath of the gods, Hedrick and Juliana built a temple and hid there. But the gods put an eternal wall between them, and even after death, Hedrick and Juliana seek each other. This place is called the Cursed Temple, and that's where Suniva's head is currently stuck. He explored the lands and entered a dungeon, and there the curse of the temple fell upon him. Suniva organized a rescue mission, but there has been no news from them since last night. That's why Lee Sang-gi decided to go on an expedition too, and all forces, including Lee Seok-ho, must join. Lee Seok-ho immediately jumped up and asked who would protect the guild in their absence. Lee Sang-gai replied that in her absence, the 7th Squad would be in charge. Lee Ki-yeon is delighted to hear that this is his chance. Lee Seok-ho snapped that that's not how things are done. You can't trust newbies to the guild, and if people are needed, the 7th Squad is perfect. Lee Sang-gi protested that it was too dangerous for them. Lee Seok-ho insisted that they spent a lot of money on this squad. Lee Ka-yeon realized that Lee Seok-ho was trying very hard to take them with him. He also said that Lee Ki-yeon has no meaning in the guild. Lee Ki-yeon thought that he would not let anyone take Blue away from him, because if she belongs to Kim Hyun-sung, then Lee Ki-yeon too. However, Kim Hyun-sung agreed to take part in the rescue operation. Kim Hyun-sung apologized for not telling Lee Ki-yeon earlier, but he was planning to go on another scout to achieve a new class for the entire squad. Lee Ki-yeon understood that there was no need to go to such a dangerous dungeon for this. Most likely there is some special item there that you can't get anywhere else or something. Lee Seok-ho continued to make fun of the rookies, and Lee Sang-gi slammed her fist on the table, saying that Lee Seok-ho disappointed her with his behavior at the rookies, worrying what the head would say when he returned. Lee Sang-gi decided to leave the guild to Lee Seok-ho and begged him not to disappoint her. Lee Ki-yeon thought to hell with the trust. Sorry to tell Lee Sang-gi, but Lee Seok-ho is going to die soon. Lee Jae-hai unexpectedly received a letter from Lee Ki-young. At first glance, nonsense and invitations to dates were written there, but she sees between the lines a request to kill someone, and it really confused her. Lee Jae-hai resolutely headed to her office and saw that she still had some concealment potion left. Lee Jae-hai thought that Lee Ki-yeon had better be grateful for her help. While Lee Ki-yeon was in charge of the meeting for the expedition, the maid told him that he had received diagnoses from the doctor. Lee Ki-young didn't understand what the matter was, but when he opened the envelope, he realized that Lee Jae-hai had agreed. Suddenly, Lee Ki-young felt something terrible behind him. It was Jung Ha-young who went crazy again and asked if Lee Ki-young had a pen pal. Lee Ki-young assured that there was no such thing. Lee Ki-yeon revealed that it was just a diagnosis from the doctor, and Jung Ha-young panicked even more that he had a cold. Lee Ki-yeon quickly reassured that he was only experiencing mild symptoms of a cold, and everything was fine, turning the topic to the meeting. Suniva walked through the disgusting swamp, heading to the temple. Lee Sang-gi apologized for letting everyone down again and didn't really want to take them with her on the expedition. Kim Hyun-sung replied that everything is fine. Lee Ki-yeon explained that Suniva had already done a lot for the 7th Squad, so they should pay back in kind. Lee Ka-yeon thought to himself that Kim Hyun-sung must have a good reason for coming here. The squad was attacked by undead. Kim Ye-ri hid behind Kim Hyun-sung in terror and declared that most of the monsters here have elements of darkness. Lee Ki-yeon didn't understand why she was shouting so much. Those with a holy element had to be especially careful. However, Jung Ha-young and Sun Hee-yeon were happily frolicking and looked like they had come to some kind of festival. Lee Sang-gi stated that if she was more competent as a leader, this would not have happened, but all participants who help save the head will be generously rewarded for this campaign. Suddenly, Lee Sang-gi noticed that Park Deok-koo was nowhere to be found. Everyone looked around and started calling Park Deok-koo. Lee Ki-yeon wondered where this lead could have gone. Hwang Jung-yeon replied that Park Deok-koo had left and would be back soon. She apologized to Lee Ki-yeon for the late recommendation and said that she is a guild sorcerer and Park Deok-koo's lover. Everyone was in deep shock. The words about the mistress were completely unexpected. Park Deok-koo finally caught up with the squad and apologized for being late and not introducing his partner sooner. Hwang Jung-yeon explained that she was unable to attend the meeting due to circumstances, but she is also one of Seneva's official representatives. Park Deok-koo asked everyone to take proper care of Hwang Jung-yeon. Kim Hyun-sung revealed that it was Hwang Jung-yeon who made it possible for them to go to the Garden of Horrors. Lee Ki-yeon looked at Hwang Jung-yeon's stats and saw that her stats are very good. She will take care of Park Deok-koo. Some evil sorceress saw them in the magic lair and angrily declared that all couples must die. Everyone heard this voice and urged each other to be careful, because it must be Juliana. Lee Sang-gi asked everyone to prepare for battle and energize the dungeon book. Lee Ki-yeon seemed to feel bad energy with every breath. Something was wrong. Lee Ki-yong found himself in obscurity alone. Suddenly, he saw a scene from the past where the Guardian said that Lee Ki-yeon's parents had abandoned him, but paid for him with money that could be taken away. Lee Ki-yong didn't understand what was happening or where the others were, and the guy he took food from at the beginning of the dungeon and ran away was already reaching towards him with curses. And then, Park Ha-yeon appeared out of nowhere. Lee Ki-yong thought that it might be magic that brought up psychological trauma, and that being under its influence for too long was dangerous. However, Lee Ki-yeon didn't worry too much, because it was just an illusion. Lee Ki-yong brushed aside illusions and said that there is nothing wrong with rationalizing actions because people are wired that way. He had nothing against him personally, he only cared about his own survival. Jung Jae-ho appeared and stated that he perfectly understood this way of thinking. Lee Ki-yeon replied that he was still different from a mindless killer, and then tried to calm down. Lee Ki-yeon laughed and said that all those voices could say anything, because nothing would change the fact that they were being eaten by worms underground and he was still alive. Lee Ki-yeon sent all the ghosts after the Russian ship and declared that he would live the best life possible. Lee Ki-yong headed off to find his squad members. Lee Ka-yeon regained consciousness in the Light Temple. A hand grabbed his shoulder, and Lee Ki-yeon screamed to be left alone, but it was only Kim Hyun-sung who offered to restore his mana. Lee Ki-yeon looked around. Everyone else but him and Kim Hyun-sung were shaking and screaming on the floor, all of them tormented by nightmares. However, Jung Ha-young didn't cry, but just sat in the corner. Lee Ki-yeon asked Kim Hyun-sung what was going on, and if there was a way to somehow bring the others to their senses. Kim Hyun-sung replied that he would first help Sun Hee-yeon, and Lee Ki-yeon should bring Jung Ha-yang to her senses. Jung Ha-young remembered all the times when Lee Ki-young was around other women, and decided that she had to kill them all. She had to kill them all at once to be the only one for Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Ki-yeon looked at Jung Ha-young's stats and saw that her nature had changed. The next moment, another Jung Ha-young cut his throat with a knife laced with anesthetic and dragged him somewhere. The two Jung Ha-young hugged the unconscious Lee Ki-yeon and hypnotically begged to stay here forever, just them. In some imaginary kitchen, Jung Ha-young was making soup for Lee Ki-yeon. She was embarrassed about her bridal apron, but no one else would see it, because she had already killed everyone else. Jung Ha-young remarks that she only left Park Deok-koo alive because Lee Ki-yeon is sad without him. However, she saw that Lee Ki-yeon was still sad and assumed it was because of the handcuffs and his torn legs. Lee Ki-yeon saw in reality that Jung Ha-young has a dual nature and realized that the real boss of this dungeon is not Cedric or Juliana, but Jung Ha-young. Kim Hyun-sung thought that he didn't come to this dungeon for Sinyu's head or experience. His true goal was Juliana's sword, a legendary item, and for the squad members to grow above themselves. Kim Hyun-sung believed that Lee Ki-yeon shared his goal, but Lee Ki-yeon could only think of preventing Jung Ha-young from committing mass murder at the moment. Lee Ki-yeon gave Hwang Jung-yeon the prescription and tried to reassure Jung Ha-young that he was there. Jung Ha-young instantly asked if Hwang Jung-yeon was his new girlfriend, and Lee Ki-yeon replied doom and gloom that she was Park Deok-koo's fiancée. Jung Ha-young stated that all the other girls, no, all the other people in the world should die. She suddenly bound Lee Ki-yeon with magic and placed a magic cage over him. Lee Ki-yeon asks what it all means and says that Jung Ha-young promised never to use magic on his body. Jung Ha-young replied that this way they would stay together forever. Jung Ha-young's second nature whispered that it was a good way to keep the genius mage under control. But now, everything changed. She promised to release Lee Ki-yeon when there are no other people left in the world. Lee Ki-yeon tried to call out to the others, to somehow warn of the end of the world. But Jung Ha-young covered his mouth with a magic tape and angrily told him to sit quietly. Lee Ki-yeon was desperate, but suddenly Hwang Jung-yeon asks him why he is sitting there. It was she who brought the antidote. Meanwhile, Kim Hyun-sung noticed the absence of Lee Ki-yeon, and some stupid premonition disturbed him. Then he notices the absence of Jung Ha-young and realizes that they are in danger. Hwang Jung-yeon had magic glasses that see through hidden barriers and traps. Lee Ki-yeon pleaded desperately to give the antidote to Jung Ha-young and also to be as careful as possible. Unfortunately, the magic didn't work to remove the barrier, so Lee Ki-yeon, who had miraculously removed the tape, offered to call Park Deok-koo. Hwang Jung-yeon asks his lover to break the cage. In an instant, Hwang Jung-yeon conjured up the magic microphone, and now Lee Ki-yeon could be heard. Park Deok-koo asked how he ended up there, but Lee Ki-yeon instead asked him how long he had been dating Hwang Jung-yeon. Park Deok-koo replied that about 1,000 days. Lee Ki-yeon stated that they must live a long and happy life. Park Deok-koo began to beat the cursed cage with all his might, but it's all in vain, it doesn't give in. Lee Ki-yeon started making drama and said that he would like to attend Park Deok-koo and Hwang Jung-yeon's wedding to see their children, but apparently that's not going to happen. At these words, Park Deok-koo was filled with strength and determination and shouted that Lee Ki-yeon would definitely live with Jung Ha-young until his gray hair. And with this incredible surge of strength, Park Deok-koo breaks the magic cage. Hwang Jung-yeon finally managed to give Lee Ki-yeon the antidote. Jung Ha-young saw this and started running towards them with incredible speed to kill the woman who dared to touch Lee Ki-yeon with her dirty hands. Lee Ki-yeon quickly popped the antidote pill into his mouth and caught Jung Ha-young, kissing her gently. The antidote took effect instantly, and Jung Ha-young finally regained consciousness with tears in his eyes. Everyone rejoiced at this scene, and Kim Hyun-sung breathed a sigh of relief. Jung Ha-young said that she came back and promised Lee Ki-yeon to be an extremely good girl from now on. Once everyone was healed, conquering the dungeon became a little easier. Lee Sang-gi realized that she could not be the leader and therefore transferred her duties to Kim Hyun-sung. Finally, Suneva entered Juliana's room. This immediately activated the legendary quest. In the room, Juliana addressed them as Hedrick, whom she had been waiting for so long. But suddenly, Juliana saw that it was not Hedrick and immediately went into aggressive mode, promising to kill anyone who dared to enter her room. Lee Sang-gi proposed a plan to divide the team and reminded that Juliana is a high-ranking boss who cannot be angered. Everyone concentrated on preparing for attack and defense. Kim Hyun-sung charged forward and prepared to attack Juliana from above. However, he is unable to break through her barrier, and Juliana attacks, inflicting multiple wounds on Kim Hyun-sung. Lee Ki-yeon could not believe his eyes. He did not expect that the difference in strength would be so great. Lee Ki-yeon also analyzed that Juliana's attack pattern was erratic, and her barrier was too strong. Suddenly, Juliana concentrated the killing magic in her hand, and with a shout that he was the one she was looking for, she sent that layer straight at Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Ki-yeon wasn't at all sure that his barrier could withstand this. Lee Ki-yeon fell to his knees and shouted to Juliana that she was his lover. Juliana stopped in surprise and her magic disappeared. All other members of the squad are shocked by what they heard. Meanwhile, Juliana's barrier disappeared. Her eyes brightened and she began to think of Lee Ki-yeon as Hedrick. Lee Ki-yeon confirmed that he is the same Hedrick that Juliana had waited for and loved for so long. Lee Ki-yeon revealed how sad he was without Juliana, and that he would love her for the rest of his days. However, Juliana quickly came to her senses and suspected that Lee Ki-yeon was not Hedrick. Juliana yelled that Hedrick was a hot blonde, and Lee Ki-yeon even has a different eye color. He can't be Hedrick. Lee Ki-yeon stated that he was reincarnated, and he thought that he should have guessed. Juliana tried to scratch out Lee Ki-yeon's eyes, but he stopped her hand and said that he missed seeing Juliana get angry. Lee Ki-yeon said the same gentle phrases as Hedrick and convinced Juliana. Suddenly, Lee Ki-yeon yelled for Juliana to run because someone was pulling him away. Park Deok-koo and Hwang Jung-yeon laughed and said that now Hedrick is in their hands and Juliana must obey them. Juliana became enraged and shouted that they were all vile followers of the Templars. Zhang Haiyang restrained Juliana and told her that dear Hedrick belonged to her. Li Qiyan was clearly enjoying the scene. Juliana shouted to Li Qiyan that she would save him. She drew her sword and declared that no one would get out alive. Li Qiyan told Sun Hee-yeon that the backline is safe. They should focus on Kim Hyun-seon. Sun Hee-yeon cast a priestess's prayer on Kim Hyun-sung, raising his stats quite a bit. Kim Hyun-sung received the heroic swordsman class and desperately rushed into battle. Li Qiyan thought that even if it is an act of prayer, but still, Kim Hyun-sung is a legendary person. His movements are incredible. Li Ka-yeon always believed in the incredibleness of Kim Hyun-sung. Kim Hyun-sung dealt a fair amount of damage to Juliana, but didn't kill her in one hit. But Juliana has suddenly become stronger, and now poses a real threat even to Kim Hyun-sung under prayer. Li Qiyan realized that Juliana must not kill Kim Hyun-sung under any circumstances. Otherwise, all his plans would come to naught. Li Qiyan begged Juliana to stop. Juliana was momentarily distracted by the shrill scream, and Kim Hyun-sung impaled her with his sword, finally killing the boss. Li Qiyan approached the defeated Juliana and said that he will always remember her. Juliana freed herself from the curse and finally died happy, promising to always be by her side. While Li Qiyan was wondering if he had behaved too disgustingly, a happy Lee Sang-gai ran up to them and congratulated everyone on their victory. Suddenly, Juliana's sword began to glow. The ritual of handing over the sacred weapon has begun, because the legendary weapon itself chooses its owner. Most likely the sword should go to Kim Hyun-sung, because he defeated Juliana and the swordsman. Kim Hyun-sung reached for the sword, thinking that he had finally succeeded. In a past life, Jung Ji-ho wielded the sword and killed many people with it, but this time, history is written differently. However, when Kim Hyun-sung touched the sword, he threw it away and a disgruntled energy swept through the temple. Lee Sang-gi asked everyone to calm down. The sword will not attack. Kim Hyun-sung had to try again. Li Qiyan heard Juliana asking him, Hedrick, her lover, to take her hand. Li Qiyan's hand moved on its own, reaching for the sword at the same time as Kim Hyun-sung reached for it. Li Qiyan calmly took the sword in his hand, raising it high above his head. Kim Hyun-sung looked at him with a look of shock on his face, and Li Qiyan himself did not understand what had just happened. Li Qiyan thought that he had not agreed to this ritual of handing over. Moreover, Kim Hyun-sung had such a face that Li Qiyan felt very bad. He wasn't putting on this show to get the sword for himself. However, after a second, Li Qiyan saw how many incredible features this sword has and what characteristics it bestows on its owner, and decided that he would still agree. Li Qiyan awkwardly apologized to Kim Hyun-sung, saying that he didn't mean for things to turn out like this. Kim Hyun-sung replied that everything is fine. Nothing can be done if the sword chose Li Qiyan. However, Kim Hyun-sung said that if Li Qiyan now has a sword, he should be able to use it. Kim Hyun-sung invited Li Qiyan to the training ground 3 times a day from then on. Suddenly, someone shouted desperately that they had found the guild head. Lee Sang-gi was happy, but Kim Hyun-sung's face did not portend anything good. A few days later, they were called to say goodbye to the head because he had died. Lee Sang-gi cried, and Li Qiyan noted Kim Hyun-sung's calmness, so it was meant to be. Li Qiyan wondered if this death was simple or murder. He suspected Lee Seok-ho, who smiled mysteriously during the funeral. Li Qiyan assumed that this was all planned. During the tea party, Lee Seok-ho came to the squad. He stated that he was surprised that they all managed to return alive. However, Lee Seok-ho insisted that it only concerned Lee Ki-yeon. Park Dock. Koo got mad at Lee Seok-ho, but Lee Seok-ho said that he understood his pain, since they must have had to drag this stupid alchemist around all over the dungeon. And yet the head of the guild died alone. Lee Ki-yeon did not believe Lee Seok-ho's words and insisted that it was his fault that the chairman died alone. Lee Seok-ho angrily denied that they were working continuously and sent reinforcements. Lee Ki-yeon parried this by saying that reinforcements never arrived. Lee Seok-ho denied that they couldn't find anyone, but Lee Ki-yeon asked an apt question. Couldn't they, or didn't they even try? Lee Ki-yeon noted that Lee Seok-ho clearly spoke about the chairman dying alone, as if he had witnessed it himself, which was impossible. Lee Seok-ho angrily asked what Lee Ki-yeon was implying. Lee Ki-yeon stated that the emphasis on the solitary death of the head only sounds like a cover-up of the fact that the killer is Lee Seok-ho. These words made Lee Seok-ho furious and started yelling at Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Seok-ho said that if Lee Ki-yeon wanted to die so badly, then he would grant his request. Jung Ha-young jumps up from behind, but Lee Ki-yeon is calm. As Lee Seok-ho swung, Juliana's sword flew at him. Lee Ki-yeon assured that precious Juliana shouldn't be so angry, rejoicing at the auto-call option. Lee Seok-ho is shocked, and Jung Ha-young is quite jealous of Lee Ki-yeon's sword. Lee Ki-yeon asked Park Deok-koo to escort Jung Ha-young upstairs since he still has work to do. Lee Ki-yeon decided that the important thing was not whether Lee Seok-ho killed his head, but what he was going to do with Lee Seok-ho. Lee Ki-yeon went to visit Lee Jae-hai. During this time, she gathered evidence that Lee Seok-ho was working with the Yamato Guild located elsewhere. Lee Seok-ho wanted to give Blue into Yamato's hands. Lee Jae-hai then admitted that she had not found any evidence that the death of the chairman had anything to do with Lee Seok-ho. Lee Ki-yeon just smiled and said that in that case, this evidence needs to be created. Lee Jae-hai asked what Lee Ki-yeon was talking about. Lee Ki-yeon thought she was less corrupt than he expected, but Lee Jae-hai revealed her potion and hinted that she had already created proof of Lee Seok-ho's involvement. Lee Jae-hai revealed that she had already instructed one of her people to spray this vial on Lee Seok-ho's clothes. She left everything else up to Lee Ki-yeon, giving him the vial. Suddenly, Lee Ki-yeon saw Jung Ha-young. He asked what she was doing here since he said to stay in the guild, but Jung Ha-young replied that she was too excited after the dialogue with Lee Seok-ho. Lee Ki-yeon thought that it was not that important because the main problem was behind him. He asks Jung Ha-young out for a walk and she's just happy that it's a date. Lee Ki-yeon offered Jung Ha-young a snack and she agreed, until suddenly someone cast dark magic towards Lee Ki-yeon. Jung Ha-young barely had time to cast a wind protection spell and pull Lee Ki-yeon away. People around started screaming and killers with swords jumped out of nowhere. Lee Ki-yeon realized that they were targeting him. It is likely that these were Lee Seok-ho's men. Lee Ki-yeon tried to call Juliana, but Jung Ha-young conjured up the defense faster. Jung Ha-young is angry because her date with Lee Ki-yeon was interrupted, and because of this anger, she got promoted to Archmage. Jung Ha-young had a large reserve of mana, but she used it very quickly. At one point, she almost collapsed from exhaustion. Lee Ki-yeon caught Jung Ha-young and offered to join forces and escape. Lee Ki-yeon summoned Juliana for protection, but even so, Jung Ha-young's body was too weak for so many spells, and the assassins were everywhere, mercilessly attacking without stopping. At one point, Jung Ha-young's defenses failed, and she simply covered Lee Ki-yeon with herself. The sword pierced through her, but Jung Ha-young is happy that she was able to protect Lee Ki-yeon. Lee Ki-yeon called Juliana for help again, but Jung Ha-young asked not to mention her name, but rather to address her. Lee Ki-yeon realized that Jung Ha-young was really jealous of the sword all this time. New daggers flew at them, and Lee Ki-yeon tried to use his magic shield, but the daggers penetrated Jung Ha-young's body. Jung Ha-young cried and smiled, saying that she always dreamed of being near him. Lee Ki-yeon begged Jung Ha-young to get out of here because he can't let her die. It would ruin all his plans. Jung Ha-young stubbornly refused to leave her lover despite all his words. Several new daggers aimed at Jung Ha-young and Lee Ki-yeon shouted that she shouldn't die. Suddenly, an enraged Cha Hee-ra appeared and killed the attacker with one foot. Cha Hee-ra angrily stated that she only went on an expedition for a short time and someone already decided to attack the mercenary queen's husband, a very stupid way to die. Another assassin was heading towards Lee Ki-yeon from behind and had already drawn his sword. However, all the other worried members of the 7th Squad were already running to Lee Ki-yeon and Jung Ha-young. Kim Hyun-sung asked who did it, but Lee Ki-yeon replied that he didn't know, that they were just on business at the Black Swan and were coming back. However, Lee Ki-yeon is 100% sure that it is Lee Seok-ho. Kim Hyun-sung and Cha Hee-ra dealt with the remnants of the enemies. Lee Ki-yeon thought that he would be happy to tell them everything and let Lee Seok-ho's head be lifted off his shoulders. However, because of Jung Ha-young, revenge should be better. Lee Ki-yeon whispered to Jung Ha-young that he really loved her. He poured one of his healing potions into his mouth and kissed Zheng Haiyang. It worked! Zheng Haiyang is alive, and Li Qiyan cried with relief. Cha He-ra heard that Li Qiyan believes that Li Seok-ho is responsible for the attack, but she wants to deal with him on her own. However, Cha He-ra asked who should she turn her anger on then, because she was also being mocked. Li Qiyan replied that the Yamato Guild, because they had affairs with Li Seok-ho, and most likely they were to blame for this attack. Cha He-ra understood. Li Qiyan does not want to get rid of Yamato by the hands of someone from Sinova. Li Qiyan stated that this way they would set up Lindell against the Yamato Guild, and then Cha He-ra would deal with them. Cha He-ra hugged Li Qiyan and whispered that even though he is an asshole, he knows how to impress her. In the guild, Li Sangai asked in horror what had happened. Li Seok-ho said behind her back that it was most likely someone came for the legendary weapon, but considering that Li Qiyan wasn't injured, it wasn't serious. Li Qiyan snapped that they were professional mercenaries, but something else was more important right now. He showed the potion to Li Sangji and said that it was Li Seok-ho who killed the guild head with it. Horrified, Li Sangji demanded an immediate explanation of what all this meant. Li Seok-ho swore to God that he didn't kill the guild head and asked to believe him. This is a misunderstanding. Li Qiyan denied these words. Li Sangji stated that some things seemed strange to her in the death of the head and asked Li Qiyan to tell everything he found out. The first thing Li Qiyan said was that the head was already recovering, but suddenly died. Next, while studying the records, Li Qiyan saw that at some point Sinava stopped supplying the head with supplies. In addition, the senior members of the guild were unexpectedly happy about his death. Li Qiyan went on to say that he was surprised by Li Seok-ho's words about the lonely death of the head, because how did Li Seok-ho know that? Li Qiyan also remembered that Li Seok-ho was alone with his head the night before he died. Li Qiyan stated that he did a joint investigation with the Black Swan, who specialize in such cases, and found out that Li Seok-ho bought that potion from Celia. Li Seok-ho denied that he had never done such a thing, but Li Sangji firmly told him to shut up. Li Qiyan is pleased that she is on his side. Li Qiyan revealed that after saying goodbye to the head, Li Sangji allowed him and Huang Zhengyan to check the body, and they found traces of the same potion on the head's body. After that, Li Qiyan headed to Li Seok-ho's room and found a secret box locked with a spell, and inside was the potion. And since Li Qiyan found out, Li Seok-ho sent assassins after him. Li Seok-ho told Li Sangji not to believe the tale because if Li Qiyan was telling the truth, shouldn't he have told about the head found right away? Also, Li Qiyan could force Huang Zhengyan to falsify evidence. Li Qiyan said he wanted to tell, but he was attacked so he couldn't. Li Sangai sharply ordered him to close the bag immediately. Li Seok-ho was satisfied, thinking that he had won. Li Seok-ho gleefully orders Li Qiyan to be thrown in jail immediately, but in the end it turns out that Li Sangai ordered him to shut up, not Li Qiyan. Li Seok-ho tried to deny everything, but Li Sangji put a sword to him and said that there was always something suspicious about Li Seok-ho. Li Sangji sternly asked who Li Seok-ho works for.